Welcome back to episode 121 of the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast. My name is Josh. As always, I'm here with Troy. What's going on, Troy?
Not a whole lot. What's going on with you?
Just living the dream, man. There's a lot going on. We're getting close to the start of the season. Preseason games are underway. There's news coming at us left and right. I'm kind of adjusting to the news space where nothing happened NHL wise for like 2 months. And now it feels like information overload. What about you?
Well, all I've been seeing is highlights of Connor Bedard making sweet saucer passes.
In
And then, who is it? Taylor Hall not finishing, which might be a story this year. But then they had the other way around where Taylor Hall made a sweet pass to Bedard. And of course, Bedard buries it. So and that's just training camp, like inter squad scrimmages and getting all hyped up.
Well, we got a lot to get to today. We're going to continue our 2023-24 preview series. Just a couple things, though, really quick before we get started. First of all, I wanted to just take a minute because we probably don't do this enough or really very often, and just thank everybody for your continued support of our show. We had an unbelievable summer. You know, you go into a summer, you go into an off season, and you kind of wonder, well, is anyone going to care anymore and listen? And our show grew like by leaps and bounds this summer, which I don't understand why or how, other than it's amazing, and we're very, very grateful for it. And yeah, like I said, we just want to take a minute and acknowledge that we really, really appreciate everyone's support. When you guys send us kind messages and stuff like that, it means a lot to us, and we never take you guys for granted. We work very hard to make sure that if you're going to give us 2 hours of your time, that we do a lot of research. We find some tips or tricks or nuggets that kind of help you along the way in your collecting journey. So, like I said, just wanted to take a minute and say thank you. And then lastly, before we get started, just a quick reminder that the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast is a Patreon podcast. What that means is we rely on support of listeners like yourself to cover our show expenses, continue to produce more and hopefully better hockey card content, help us fund initiatives, even in a small way, to grow the hockey hobby. Right now, you can join our on a $1.99 support level tier. It starts at $5 a month and support our show. You could also get access to our Discord server where you can chat with us and everyone else in there. We have a lot of great hockey card related conversation that happens every day. Boy, and I think 4 days now we're going to start having our 5K challenge entries that'll be turned in. You'll have a limited window to turn those in if you want a chance to win a sealed box of 2020 The Cup. We've never even opened up a box of the cup, and we're giving one away. So really excited.
We've looked at it on your shelf
and
wanted to open it. But let me go back to the Discord for a sec. If you join and you get into our Discord, you will see people create fantastic, I don't know what you want to call it, art pictures of me staring at the camera with gawkers looking at me. It was hilarious. I loved it so much.
Yeah, that was Phil the Loud Collector had obviously too much time on his hands, but yeah, there's it's a really great place and community, and it grows every week, and so we're very grateful for that too. If you do want to support us, it's very easy to do. You can go to our website, hockeycardsgongshow.com. There's a link at the top of the page to become a patron. Or if you want, you can go directly to the Patreon website at patreon.com and search for Hockey Cards Gong Show. There's a link in the show description for whatever podcast app you might be listening to us on right now. Or if you're watching on YouTube, there's a link in the description there too. And then finally in our TikTok and Instagram profiles, there's a link tree with a link to our Patreon there. We have one new patron since our last show. Special thanks to T. Olson70, who joined our on a $1.99. I believe we met him at the Minnesota Card Show. So it was great to meet him and thank him for his support. And he's already in Discord and chatting away. And so it's great to have another member there too. All right, Trey, you ready for the game plan?
All right, on today's show, we begin with the greatest player to wear number 21. Then we continue our 2023-24 preview series by looking at possible breakout candidates that are under or that are 24 years of age or younger. We then are off to hobby news and new product releases. We then take a look at some recent PSA 9 values and if any recent trends are emerging or how they're holding up against PSA 10s. It's been a while since we visited that topic, so we're going to revisit it. Yep, in today's show. We end the show with our PWCC Weekly Auction hockey card preview and personal pickups. All right, Josh, we are getting near the end. We are on number 21 for episode 121. The greatest NHL player to wear number 21. Per the Hockey Writer's greatest NHL player to wear each number article is Stan Mikita. First thing you see is the sweetest helmet ever. Rivals the Jofa or the Jofa Gretzky. I love the bubble helmet. It's one of my favorites.
Almost looks like a roller skating helmet to me.
Oh, I just love that thing. It looks so awesome. Runners up at number 21 were pretty good. Peter Forsberg, Björn Salming, and Guy Carbonneau. So pretty good list of runners up at number 21.
Who do you think the best runner up has been? Forsberg would have to be close to that, right?
Forsberg's up there. There was one where it's just
it was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous, and a lot of people messaged us and told us it should have been the other person. Was it 88? Lindros versus who's like? Don't ask me. I can't remember any of our show. Anyway,
we don't remember our own show.
All right, Stan Mikita. He's a center / played a little bit of right wing also. Born in, and here we go. I'm gonna call it Sokolsky, Sokolce, Czechoslovakia. So I'll just say he was born in Czechoslovakia. When he was 8 years old, he was adopted by his aunt and uncle and went to live in St. Catharines, Ontario, which it seems like I didn't really find a lot about his childhood. It's kind of interesting, but his parents, like his aunt and uncle, lived in Canada, came and visited his parents in Czechoslovakia. Communism was starting to take over, and his parents said, why don't you go back with them into Canada? Because your life will be a whole lot better. And that's kind of what happened. Then aunt and uncle adopted him. So pretty interesting story.
Can I admit to something embarrassing? But
sure.
I'm still confused with, hasn't like Czechoslovakia changed its name?
Yeah.
Like so about 9 times now. Is it, what is it? Is it Czech Republic?
Czechia. Oh, I thought you were saying now. Now it's Czechia.
Now it's Czechia. Because it went from Czechoslovakia to the Czech Republic, right?
I think so. It's
Czechia.
I'm getting way out of my space. So I
have no idea why, but it would just be nice if for whatever reason they could pick one and go with it.
Pick a name. All right. Mikita joined the Blackhawks for a brief 3-game stint during the 1958-59 season. With the oppression, he left after his 3-game stint, and with his previous 3 starring junior seasons with the St. Catharines Teepees of the Ontario Hockey Association, Mikita was promoted to the Blackhawks full-time for the 1959-60 season. Mikita played in 1,396 regular season NHL games over a 22-season NHL career. Mikita played his entire career with the Chicago Blackhawks. His awards and accomplishments: Hall of Famer, 1-time Stanley Cup winner, 2-time Hart Trophy winner, 4-time Art Ross Trophy winner, 2-time Lady Byng winner, 6-time NHL First All-Star Team selection, 2-time NHL Second All-Star Team selection, 9-time NHL All-Star Game selection, named one of the 100 greatest players by NHL.com, ranked number 47 in the Athletics top NHL players in the post-expansion era or modern era, whichever way you want to look at it. His number 21 is retired by the Chicago Blackhawks. I'm going to fully admit I am fully embarrassed. I didn't realize he had that many accolades. I always knew he was like a really good, great player. I learned a lot, and I feel shame. I should go to the box. That was terrible. For his career in the regular season, Mikita had 541 goals, which is 33rd all-time, 926 assists, which is 19th all-time, for 1,467 points, which is 17th all-time. He made the playoffs in 18 of his 22 NHL seasons, compiling 59 goals, 91 assists for 150 points in 155 NHL playoff games played. Mikita had 13 seasons of 72 or more points. Of those 13 seasons, Mikita had 2 seasons of 97 points and 7 seasons of 80 or more points. Mikita had 9 seasons of 30 or more goals. The best seasons of his NHL career from a point standpoint was his 1966-67 season, where Mikita had 35 goals, 62 assists for 97 points in 70 games played. and his 1967-68 season, where Mikita had 30 goals, 67 assists, again for 97 points in 74 games played. So Josh, Mikita, one of the absolute best NHL centers during the 1960s. This picture I'm showing, if you're watching the YouTube, is so sweet and
That's
so
awesome.
old. And I love this. Like, it doesn't, well, they do have plexiglass there. So I like when the old ones have like the fencing or like chicken wire around the rink. Those are just awesome. I love this. Is just a great picture. I love old time hockey pictures. So Mikita was known for his combination of being a skilled defender and also being one of the game's best face-off men, using his innovative curved stick. I think I get to that. I do get to that in fun facts, but a lot of people know the story, but we'll repeat it real quick. He was also an offensive threat as he could score and had great playmaking ability. All this led to Mikita leading the league in scoring 4 times during the 1960s. Again, I didn't know that. I felt embarrassed. After retiring, Mikita became a golf pro at Kemper Lakes Golf Club. He also started Stan Mikita Enterprises, which had a business unit that made the small plastic sauce containers that came with chicken McNuggets. So
Really?
he wasn't hurt. He became a very successful businessman after. I love that
the
one.
Barbecue sauce container guy.
Do you remember those back in the day?
Yeah.
I think that you still get. It's probably. I don't think that's changed much, has it?
I don't think they've changed, have they?
No, I don't think, unless they use like more recyclable materials or something. But yeah. Also, after his retirement, he became a goodwill ambassador for the Chicago Blackhawks organization. In 2011, the Blackhawks unveiled a statue of Mikita at Chicago's United Center. And what I love about the statue, you don't see many color ones.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that.
Yeah, and I love that this one's color. You can find some really good pictures online where it's bright. I don't know if it's dulled up or whatever, but I love just the tape around the socks. I mean, it looks like a really nice statue. It actually looks like him. You see those statues that it doesn't look anything like them, and you're just like, oh, okay. But that looks like an absolute fantastic statue.
If the Wild had to do a statue of somebody, who would it be?
You know what they would do? They would do the fans.
I was just going to say that. They'd
have a statue of the fans. It'd be so dumb.
Retire number 1. Stupidest thing ever.
All right. Yeah. Wild. All right. Not to bring us down a little bit, but after Mikita's death, it was announced by the Boston University CTE Center that Mikita suffered from stage 3 chronic traumatic, don't even try to make me say this, encephalopathy. Yeah, there you go. Or CTE at the time of his death. This made Mikita the first NHL Hall of Famer to ever been diagnosed with the disease. So
probably not
very
the last,
sad.
no?
Yeah, not the last. Very sad. But at least they're doing work on it, and it's coming to light, and they can try to protect the players better than they did in the past.
Don't you feel like that there's a little bit less concussions now? Like the league's done a little bit better job, or maybe the helmets have gotten a little bit better.
I bet it's everything. It's the equipment's getting better. The testing is better. The technique teaching, this is USA Hockey. I don't know, Hockey Canada does it, but we introduce body contact now. Very mites, even squirts, and then we're teaching how to check in Pee Wee, even though they can't check. But you start teaching it, because what you don't want is them to get to Bantams in the U.S. and all of a sudden they're going to start hitting. They have no experience. That's when kids get injured, and that's when bad things happen. All right, so Stan Mikita. That was kind of a little overview. Now I apologize. We have so many fun facts. I went down a rabbit hole with him because I just didn't know that much about him. All right, his nickname was Stosh due to his Slovakian heritage. I could not find why he wore number 21. I looked everywhere and just didn't find anything. His name at birth was Stanislav Guoth, Guoth. However, his name was changed when he moved to Canada.
I think Stan Mikita is a better hockey name.
That's definitely a cooler hockey.
I agree with that. I agree with that move.
All right, here you go. Here's a good one. Stan Mikita is the only player in NHL history to win the Hart, Conn Smythe, and Lady Byng in the same season. And he did it twice in consecutive seasons. So that's a great one. I love that.
He was the nice MVP.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that a little bit too. At the time of his retirement, Only Gordie Howe and Phil Esposito had scored more career points than Stan Mikita. He's the first player in Blackhawks history to have his jersey number retired. First Slovakian player in NHL history to win the cup. Now, here we go about him being nice. During a couple of his early seasons in the NHL, Mikita was among the most penalized players in the league. However, he decided to change his game and play a cleaner game. Now, if you're wondering why he decided to do this, this is a story he tells. After he returned home from a road trip, his wife told him that while their daughter was watching the Blackhawks' last road game on television, she turned and asked her mom, "Why does Daddy spend so much time sitting down?" As the camera had showed Mikita in the penalty box. So then he decides to clean up his game. He goes on and wins a Lady Bing. It's just kind of crazy. I hope it's got to be true. I don't think he embellished that or anything. All right, a couple more. During his playing career in 1973, Mikita teamed up with the Chicago businessman Irv. Well, I got to really look at these names. Tianabik to form the American Hearing Impaired Hockey Association to bring together deaf and hard of hearing hockey players from all over the country. And he founded the Stan Mikita School for the Hearing Impaired, inspired by a friend's deaf son who was an aspiring goalie. He also helped bring the Special Olympics to Chicago, bringing his family out to volunteer at races. So a little cool charity work. I appreciate it because I think I am deaf in one ear, but anything hard of hearing, I like to see that being supported. Mikita was one of the first players to wear a helmet full time after a December 1967 game in which an errant shot tore off a piece of one of his ears, which luckily was stitched back on. But then he decided to wear a helmet.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that sounds great, doesn't it?
No.
Along with Bobby Hull, was one of the first to use a curved stick. We've talked about the story many times, but they were putting it under their hotel doors, bending them, getting to the propane tanks and all that stuff. And then finally, Josh, fun, interesting fact. Who can forget Stan Mikita's donut shop in Wayne's World? Great reference in that movie. It wasn't a real place, but they did one year build it. And it was like a pop-up. They did a Stan Mikita's donut shop.
Really?
I have no clue if this picture's from the movie. The stand-up, I don't know, but I just found it. It looks like it was from the movie, but I love that. All right, Josh, his rookie card. 1960, Topps, number 14. There are no PSA 10s, so we have a whopping gem rate of 0%. PSA 9 has a pop of 4. And I put PSA 8 pop is 68%. It's probably 68, not percent.
Yeah.
So it's very tough grid. The last sale of a PSA 8 copy was on March 19th of this year via PWCC for $3,240 US. Boy, I want to see who races and gets that first 10. What would that go for? Holy cow. All-time high sale of a PSA 8 copy was only $3,438.88 US via PWCC in January of 2021. So that recent sale is really close to the record high. But as you can see, if you're watching YouTube, just kind of a crazy looking card. I don't know what the design for. It looks like a postage stamp. I don't know what's going on back here with the
kind of like Andy Warhol-esque, like pop art almost.
It looks like looks like the picture was cut out and threw on top. It's kind of an odd picture.
The thing I don't love about the 1960 Topps is like his picture is really small in the card.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. It's not my favorite card. I'll just say that. But if you can get a PSA 10 or a 9 even, geez. So that's what we got. Stan Mikita, fantastic player. Learned a lot. Fun facts might have went on longer than his career overview, but it was awesome to research him.
So do we have one left?
No, we have 2. We have 22 and 23, and then back to 24 is Chelios. That's what we started with.
Okay. All right. We'll look forward to that. All right, Troy, we're ready to continue our 2023-24 preview series. This time we're going to look at breakthrough candidates that are 24 years and under. And we're really starting to get into the fun topics, the nitty-gritty, as we approach the season. So these are players ages 24 and under that could be primed for a hobby breakthrough in 2023-24. We've already taken a look at the veterans
Yep.
that we said are players that are 25 years old and older. So now we're going to dig into the younger prospects. These are not technically rookies, though, because we're going to handle those either on Monday or Thursday. I think Monday. So anyone that you might think is a rookie or you would assume is a rookie is going to be technically not called or eligible that we cover today. And these are going to be guys that if you have a little bit of a gambling mentality, that could be interesting to make some bets on because they're not the already established guys like a Jason Robertson who definitely, or Cole Caulfield. They're those
Mhm.
type of people. These are guys that we think could be on the come up and might be primed to have that breakthrough. There's 7 players that we've identified, and we're going to go through them right now. So the first one, Troy, is probably the most obvious one.
Yep.
If you've listened to our show, I've been talking about him pretty incessantly since really last season ended. It's Timmy Stützle. He's just 21 years old, coming
Yep.
off a season where he put up 39 goals, 51 assists for 90 points in 78 games played. To this point in the hobby, the 2020 third overall pick has been a little overshadowed by the players ahead of him, Alexi Lafreniere and Quentin Byfield.
Mhm.
But it looks like the third pick, Stützle, will probably end up being the best of the bunch, really.
Yep.
So, Troy, he finished his 20-year-old NHL season with 177 career points. That puts him 27th all time on that list. But he's notably ahead of, listen to the players that he has more points than at 20 years old: Brian Trottier, Eric Lindros, Joe Sakic, Nathan McKinnon, Mike Modano, and Austin Matthews.
Hmm.
It's not a bad group
No,
to be
it's not
ahead of.
bad.
And if you look just at goals, he has 1 goal less than Austin Matthews did at this juncture of his career.
Yep.
So it's not just producing points, he's scoring goals at a pretty good clip too. And if you're wondering, the player with the most points accumulated by his 20-year-old season was, of course, Wayne Gretzky, who had 513.
Wow.
Stützle has 177.
Yep.
The next closest to Gretzky is Dale Hawerchuk with 296. So he's 17 points ahead of the next closest player.
Yep. That's crazy.
Wayne Gretzky was good. But getting back to Stützle, I think it's safe to say he's gotten off to a pretty good start in his career.
Yep.
And there's a lot to be excited about him going into 2023-24. So we might see him paired up with Brady Tkachuk and new addition Vladimir Tarasenko on Ottawa's top line. That's not a bad line, huh?
I still think it's gonna be weird seeing Tarasenko in
I know.
Ottawa. That's one that doesn't just seem right, but yeah, definitely. Do you know, did Stützle, was he with, did him and, I wonder if DeBrincat, if he got along with him, or if did they
I
play
don't
together
know.
at all? I listen, I'm the worst person to ask about Ottawa, so
Yeah. Well, I think we'll be following him a lot more closely this year.
yeah.
A couple of teams
Oh
are
yeah.
going to follow a lot
Yeah.
closer. And if it doesn't have to be Tarasenko, because there's going to be a lot of line combination, certain coaches like to try out different line combinations. The other thought is it might be Stützle, Tkachuk, and Claude Giroux, which are both really good options. Stützle will also be centering the top power play unit for Ottawa, and with some of their new additions, I mean, it's a pretty good first unit on the power play. You got Stützle, Tkachuk, Tarasenko, Giroux, and Thomas Chabot.
Yep.
I would take that. And just in general, Ottawa seems to be up and coming team that
Yep.
should challenge for a playoff spot in a pretty deep Eastern Conference. I know you've listened to me talk about him endlessly, but are you a Stützle guy?
Oh yeah, he's everything you want. He's highly skilled. He's had 3 straight seasons of progressively getting more points and turning into a budding superstar. I don't know it's everything you'd want from a player, and especially if you're looking at breakthrough candidates. He seems, that's why you put him first, but he seems like the guy. If you ask me, I know who the list is. Pick a couple or 1 or 2. He's definitely on my list as one of these guys that could break through.
And if you follow the trajectory, which isn't a given, of course,
No.
it would point to 40, 45 goals
Mm-hmm.
this year, which I think could elevate him into star category, especially if they find a way to squeeze into the playoffs. It'll be tough for Ottawa, but they should challenge for a spot nonetheless. Timmy Stutzla is a 2020 Young Gun. His PSA 10 popped 2,472, has a 61% gem rate. Troy, last sold for $173 on September 24th. Are you surprised that it's 2,472?
I'm not surprised because I actually knew it was up there because I have a Stutzla Young Gun.
Okay.
Mine's raw, but I remember looking it up a while ago, and I remember it was high then. I was like, "Ooh."
Yeah, the value's up. Is about even over the past 6 months and up 20% in the past 30 days. So, like I said, if you've followed our show, you know he's my number one with a bullet kind of a guy.
Yeah.
So, Timmy Stutzla.
Let's say if you're watching YouTube, there's the picture of it. I totally forgot to flip over to his Young Guns.
All right, the next guy that I think merits taking a look at is Dylan Cousins, who is another rookie from the 2020-21 hobby class that, like I said, could be an interesting look at for the upcoming season. The 22-year-old Cousins was the 7th overall pick in the 2019 NHL entry draft. He just completed his third full NHL season, of which he took a really big jump in production. So he scored 31 goals, added 37 assists for 68 points and 81 games played. So you want to talk about a big jump?
Yeah.
He went from 13 goals in 2021 to 31 in 2022.
Any trajectory you like to see. You know what stinks being a Minnesota sports fan and reading about him? Cousins is CO, whatever, our quarterback, Kirk Cousins. And I always want to say Cousins when I see Dylan Cousins. I'm like, just drives me nuts.
Yeah, we waffled on that one back and forth for a long time. So if you're at all interested in Cousins, here's what I would encourage everyone to do. Go to his stats page on NHL.com and select the drop down for his complete history as a player. He's been a monster goal scorer almost since the time he first put skates on. In his 3 WHL seasons prior to the NHL, Troy, he averaged 0.53 goals per game and 1.26 points per game. And even as he struggled a little bit in his first NHL season in 2020, he put up 8 goals, 8 assists for 16 points in 7 games in the World Junior Championships that year. So I think it's pretty well documented that he did struggle a little bit his first 2 years. And I think we even talked about it last year. I seem to remember you quoting an article that said, didn't like their coach like really kind of implore him to start shooting? Wasn't that part of the issue?
It was either him or McTavish. I get him so confused.
It was Cousins for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so it sounded like there were some maybe confidence issues.
Yeah.
You know, he was a guy that went into the NHL pretty early, but nevertheless, last season, whatever the issues were, it should have probably shored up any potential confidence issues he had about his ability to play at the NHL level. He's pretty much a lock for the second line center role for 2023. And it sounds like there's some competition as to who he'll be paired up with in camp. All right, Troy, get ready for it. It could be JJP.
Oh, JJP's back.
Well, Jack Quinn's hurt, so I think that's providing some opportunity. So we could have Cousins, Jason Peterka, and then it sounds like Victor Olofsson. So another good line, right? We had Stutzla paired up on good line, and Cousins should have some good players to play with too. And I think too, like when we look at how these guys fare in the hobby, this is something I'm starting to look at more and more. Like who you play with is a big deal as far as what you're going to be able to produce. Cousins will also play on the Sabres' first power play unit, giving him ample scoring opportunities. And then lastly, Troy, the Sabres, they look like a definitive playoff contender this season. So we could see Cousins playing meaningful games this spring, which always helps a player hobby market. Thoughts on Cousins? Are you a Cousins guy or no?
I am, just because of what he's doing, his pedigree. I love Buffalo right now. They're really exciting. They're young, lots of talent. Plus the way you made it sound, if he's second line and getting power play time, it's everything's kind of like Stutzla. Like everything's coming together at the right time.
Yeah. Dylan Cousins is a 2020 Young Guns. His PSA 10 popped 1,541 with a 71% gem rate. Holy moly. Last sold for $80 on September 27th. It's flat over the past month and down about 20% in the past 6 months. If you're a Cousins guy with the 71% gem rate, I would probably look at other cards than his Young
Yep.
Guns PSA 10 because that's really high. But yeah, I mean,
I would say that
he would.
population surprised me. The 1,541. That surprises me on him.
It kind of makes sense with the 71% gem rate, though. Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna have some guys that we're gonna talk about that. I think the lowest of the group of seven is like 24%. So you
Oh,
think about that's how many cards that they would have to submit or would have to be submitted to
yeah.
get to 1,541 versus, yeah, I think it's something like just barely over 2,000 cards were submitted for Stützle or Cousins.
Yeah.
The next guy that I wanted to bring up, Troy, is a Dawson Mercer, who somewhat quietly, I think, had a pretty good season last year
Yeah.
for the Devils. In his second full NHL season, he put up 27 goals, 29 assists for 56 points, which was an improvement by 10 goals and 14 points over his rookie season. So not quite the jump that Cousins had year to year, but still a pretty big jump. And for a young player, what the path that you definitely want to see them on. He's just 21 years old, was the 18th overall pick by the Devils in the 2020 NHL entry draft. What's been most impressive to me about Mercer's early NHL career is his team's pretty loaded with
Mm-hmm.
offensive talent. And he has not only leapfrogged Alexander Holtz, who was drafted 7th overall in 2020. So he was taken 11 spots ahead of Mercer in the same draft. When that happens, I'm not saying like there's favoritism, but it's when you're the 7th pick versus the 18th pick, I think the first look is going to go to the 7th pick, and it's
Yeah.
going to be a little bit harder for the 18th pick to, you really have to show something to the coaching staff and perform real well. So he did that. But he also carved out a top 6 role on, again, a really talented offensive team. Again, though, given the team is so stacked, it might be a little difficult to get top power play action this year. But I do think it is conceivable for Mercer to get close to the 40 goal mark. It could happen. It feels like maybe 30, 35 goals would be the baseline. And then I think the question becomes, when you look at Mercer, Troy, is who are the hobby relevant players from this team going to be?
Mm-hmm.
As we know, it's hard to have 2 hobby relevant players,
Yeah.
let
You
alone
got a big
3.
one already.
And Jack Hughes is locked and loaded into
Yeah.
that top spot. And so if there's going to be a second guy, could Mercer be it? The competition would seem to be, well, brother Luke would probably be, he's going to have a lot of hype in his rookie season.
Yep.
Then maybe there's steam that Alexander Holtz is starting to figure it out. There's always Jesper Bratt hanging
Yeah.
around. Might be a little too late for Bratt at this point because
Yeah.
he's been around since 2017 as his hobby class. But I don't know. And in all, there's a real possibility that the Devils have at least 30 or 4 30-goal scorers. And we
Mm-hmm.
haven't even, because we haven't talked about veterans like Timo Meyer and Nico Hischier and the newly added Tyler Toffoli. So lots of talent on the team, huh, Trey?
Yeah. Tons of talent. And one thing I remember when I was looking up Mercer from last year, his shooting percentage was something ridiculous last year. It's like 17, 18, 19%, somewhere in there. Boy, if you can keep that up and get more playing time and more shots, you're poisoned. You're setting yourself up very well there.
Dawson Mercer is a 2021 Young Guns. His PSA 10 is a pop 972, 61% gem rate. Last sold for $55 US on September 26th. It's down about 10% in the past month and down about 45% in the past 6 months. So this is sold for like $100 on March 29th. So
I feel like I have like 5 of these sitting in a box. I feel like I got this a lot.
I think I have a bunch too.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but it seems like one of those ones that always showed up in the boxes.
The next guy we want to talk about is Mason McTavish. So he came off a really amazing summer last year, and there was a lot of hype and a lot of hope for him to have a great rookie season. And he had a good year. It just was not great. And we'll call it like a B minus type of season, producing 17 goals, 26 assists for 43 points and 80 games played. Now his team was kind of a dumpster fire as far as that was concerned. I know they had a lot of injuries last year, but man, he seemed to be cooking heading into last season and then just never got it going.
So you might get into this. I know you said this team was a dumpster fire. I think this team is still a dumpster fire.
Fair enough. Yeah, we'll get into it in hobby news. That being said, though, he was able to work his way up the depth chart pretty quickly And now he's got 1 year experience under his belt, which will hopefully get it off to a quicker start this season. The biggest challenge is going to be to try to predict what happens with McTavish. Is really going to have less to do with him and more to do with the uncertainty surrounding the Ducks situation.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk in hobby news, but does Trevor Zegras come back or get traded? If he does come back, is he still playing center? Or do they move him to wing where he doesn't have to worry about playing defense, which seems to be their issue with Trevor Zegras?
Yeah.
Does Leo Carlson make the team and earn a top center role? So you have the potential of Carlson, Zegras, and McTavish, all centers in 2 spots in the top 6. And that can really impact what a guy is able to produce. There's also a new coach who's brought in a new system, which you'd hope will help players like McTavish be more successful, especially on the power play. So I read a lot like they were one of the worst power play teams you could imagine last year. And that's where a lot of these guys feast, of course. So lots of questions regarding Anaheim, Troy. What's not a question, though, is that at every level, McTavish has been a monster producer.
Yep.
I think he's definitely got star potential. It's just a matter of when, in my eyes. Are you a McTavish guy? I saw him play a lot in the World Junior Championships, and I was very impressed.
Yeah, I'm a McTavish guy, but I'm not a McTavish guy on the Anaheim Ducks right now.
Yeah,
that situation is pretty tough with what they got going on, and especially when you're star, quote unquote, star player, might not even be on the team next year, and he's only been Zegras' 3rd year in the league,
something like
it's
that.
already coming to a head about contract stuff, and it's just like he's out of training. Oh, we'll get into it. Never mind, we'll get into it in hobby news.
McTavish is a 2021 Young Guns. His PSA 10 pop 1,433 with a 58% gem rate. Last sold for 85 US. It's up about 31% in the past month and up about 6% in the past 6 months. So it looks like there's a little bit of steam about and hope for McTavish heading into the season. The next guy that we want to feature, it maybe a little bit of a dark horse candidate here, Troy. He does play for your Desert Dogs, so not a lot of exposure when you play down in Arizona. And we're talking about Matthias Michelli, who had a very good rookie season last year, scoring just 11 goals, but adding 38 assists for 49 points in 64 games played. So Michelli's 49 points was good enough for 2nd last season amongst NHL rookies. Beniers led all rookies with 57 points. Michelli is 22, hails from Turku, Finland, was the 98th overall pick in the 2019 NHL entry draft. I was kind of, when I first saw the name Matthias Michelli, I'm like, oh, is there like an Italian hockey player?
It sounds
Italian. Does that seem like a Finnish name at all, does it?
Michelli.
Matthias Michelli. Yeah, I don't know. So I thought that was interesting. He was from Finland. He's not a huge goal scorer, so he'll never be like have like an Austin Matthews type hobby status, but he is a point producer and has put up points at every level. He also signed a 3-year deal with the Coyotes this summer, so giving him a little bit of security and that he'll be with the team and looks to have a prominent role going forward. A couple of big questions, though, surrounding, I think, his opportunity this coming year. So Arizona signed Jason Zucker in the offseason, who could take up a top 6 left wing role. They already have Clayton Keller at left wing. So he ostensibly would have to beat out Zucker for that spot. I mean, honestly, I like Jason Zucker, but we had him for a long time here at the Wild.
Yeah, he's getting to the end too. I think he's
getting to the end. Yeah. So, yeah. And if Michelli could get to that second line, there's a good chance that Logan Cooley would be centering that line. So you could have, and just thinking of this from like the hobby point of view, a second line on Arizona where you have Matthias Michelli, Logan Cooley, and Dylan Gunther, who's another promising, very interesting line from the hobby perspective there. I would like to see that happen.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And if Cooley plays well too, I think he has the type of star power. And look, everyone was talking about his spinorama goal down in Melbourne, where he could actually bring a little bit of attention to the Coyotes, which by proxy could add a little bit of lift for guys like Michelli or Clayton Keller, who I mentioned as well.
Well, that's a huge problem. It's a huge problem with Arizona. I mean, no one knows who they are. Even their own fans can't go to a game because they're in a stadium that's 5,000 people. Expensive ticket because they got to mark the seats up. I don't even know what's going on with the new rink, if it got whatever approved or proposed and shot down or what's going on. It's just Arizona's a tough market right now. But and then so you got a small market, tough market, and now you got to beat out. Well, Cooley's coming in with hype. And then you got a couple other really good players on the team. So, but when you talk about his values, that's where he can get kind of interesting.
Matthias Michelli is a 2022-23 Young Guns. His PSA 10 has a pop of 77. Here's the 24% gem rate.
There it is. And look at the price.
Last sold for $53 US on August 23rd. Down about 41% in the past 6 months. So, yeah, you get score the second most points for a rookie, and my Young Guns goes down 41% with a 77 pop. That makes a lot of sense. Very low gem rate. So, this is like we talked about, like with Dylan Cousins. Well, if I wanted to maybe make a bet on Cousins, I probably wouldn't buy his Young Guns PSA 10.
Yep.
This one, I think, is a much better buy if you're a Michelli guy.
Agree.
Okay, next one I'm excited to talk about is Lucas Reichel.
Lucas Reichel by proxy, Connor Bedard. Is that what we're going to go with?
Connor Bedard's shadow, but joyfully living in it.
Yeah.
So there has been a fair amount of hobby steam for Reichel ever since the Blackhawks won the NHL draft lottery last spring. I don't think you and I will ever forget because we were doing a live show and we were just watching Reichel sales pop off left and right.
That was the funnest. That was just crazy.
So just like you said, we're going to call this relevancy by proxy. And it's not that there isn't anything to be positive about with Reichel, though. He's another young prospect from Germany Germany seems to be pumping out talent.
They're coming out with talent. And good talent, too. That's the thing.
Really, really good talent. Reichel's 21 years old. He was drafted with the 17th overall pick in the 2020 NHL entry draft. And for the last couple of years, he's primarily played for the Rockford Ice Hogs in the AHL. And it's been very close to a point per game producer. Last season in Rockford, Troy, he scored 20 goals, 31 assists for 51 points in 55 games played. And he did have a 23-game stint with the Blackhawks in the NHL last year, scoring 7 goals, adding 8 assists for 15 points in those 23 games. So if he can get off to a hot start, produce some goals or points, there might be a bit of a hobby surge for Reichel. I would caution people on 2 things, though. And again, he's another guy. Go to NHL.com, look at his stats, and do all leagues or all levels. And he's never in his life been close to half a goal per game.
Yeah.
So he's not going to be a 50-goal scorer in the end. There's nothing that would ever point to that. I guess I can't say he won't be, but
can't say never. But
if you've played hockey for 10 years and never at any level been a half a goal per game scorer, it's probably not going to happen. No, he could be one of these like point per game guys.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would say, too, is it doesn't seem super likely he's going to play on a line with Connor Bedard. So that's where like a Taylor Hall or someone like that may have a little bit more of an opportunity to get a hobby lift. But there is going to be, because of Bedard, a lot of attention for Chicago. And he just seems to have I don't know what it is, but people want to gravitate for it's that part of hype that nobody can quantify or understand. Right. And so he's got that going for him as well. Thoughts on Reichel, Troy?
Yeah, I hope if he can't play with Bedard, I would probably not be very interested, but we'll see what happens. I obviously didn't watch him a lot because he was in the AHL a lot of the year, but it seems like an interesting player. But again, the pedigree stuff kind of worries me a little bit.
Well, I just think like that. It seems like what Chicago wants to do is put guys with experience around Bedard, which makes total sense. It's like you're not going to do what, like how we said in Arizona, it'd be cool if they had Logan Cooley, Matthias Michelli, and Dylan Guenther.
Yeah.
You know, Bedard is too much of a prize to take that big of a risk. They're going to want to put guys that can protect him around him and guys with a little bit more experience to help him to adjust. And so, maybe if Reichel plays super well, that he could get some special teams time with Bedard, but I don't see it happening this year. Reichel's a 2022-23 Young Guns. His PSA 10 popped 255 with a 33% gem rate. It's looking like gem rates for this 2022-23 flagship series are pretty low, Troy.
Yeah.
33%. Last sold for $103 US on September 26th. It's down 10% in the past month, 6% in the past 6 months. That's kind of crazy. You look at, here's the Bedard. right? 100. What was Michelli has 77 pop and it's like
Yeah.
$50,
Yeah.
and Lucas Reichel is double that
Yeah.
in and he's played 23 games.
Yeah. In every
Right?
metric, Michelli's a better player.
Mhm. One thing you're gonna watch with buying Reichel's young guns, because there's going to be so much attention, and if he does play well, I would expect that count to go up
Yep.
uh, pretty rapidly, and that's always going to put downward pressure on values. Okay, the next guy that we're going to talk about is William Ecklentroyd. He's the last of our 7 that we're going to feature today, and this is a guy I was excited to look into. And I should mention too, both him and Reichel, I was surprised, are not Calder eligible. And the reason why William Eklund's not Calder eligible is because he's played something like, we played 9 games in 2021-22 and 8 games last season. And per the Calder Trophy eligibility rules, you can't play more than 6 games each in 2 consecutive seasons.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I get they have to have these rules in place, but
It does get
it's
confusing,
weird.
but it seems like that there's, especially from with Swedish collectors, that a lot of people have been PCing Eklund quite a bit
Yeah.
already since his
Yep.
Young Guns came out in the 2021 class. And so I was, like I said, excited to dig in a little bit and learn about him. So he was the 7th overall pick in 2021, Troy, by your San Jose Sharks.
Hmm.
Just 20 years old, hails from Henning municipality in Sweden. Totally pronounced that wrong. Sorry, guys in Sweden. Last season, he primarily played in the AHL for the San Jose Barracuda. How many NHL teams are their AHL affiliate in the same town? I was trying to think of other.
Oh boy, there can't be a lot because that.
No, I
I
don't
mean,
think
it's
so.
nice. I think the Wild have almost the perfect situation where the AHL team's in Des Moines, which
Yeah,
is like a
quick
40
trip.
minute 40-minute flight or a 4-hour car drive.
Totally agree. So last season, Eklund for the San Jose Barracuda had 17 goals, 24 assists for 41 points and 53 games played. I guess he's known for his speed. Here's a great quote on Eklund from the Athletic Scott Wheeler, who we've quoted often.
Yeah.
Eklund has some dynamic qualities between his skating and puck play. He has excellent edges and quickness. He'll be able to evade NHL pressure consistently or constantly and beat defensemen wide. He makes a lot of difficult dekes and passes on the move and has a very creative offensive mind as a playmaker. So that's a good quote. I think, see a lot of upside in his game based on that. So him and the newly drafted Will Smith, I think, are considered the top prospects in the San Jose system.
Yeah.
And basically, from all the articles I've read, a spot on the opening day roster this year's Eklund's to lose. So I think they've kind of penciled them in, but they're obviously waiting to see how camp goes. I did see
Yeah.
in their, I think it was their first or second preseason game, he did score a goal the other night. So I don't know, maybe that's a good sign. We'll give them a lot of confidence. I think he's not like small. I think he's like 5'10" or something like that, 5'11", 180 pounds, maybe a little slight and weakish,
Yeah.
something like that. But
You can always
like
you can always put muscle on.
yeah, true. And we do, like I said, have a pretty big following of our show in Sweden.
Yeah.
So I've definitely noticed a lot of hype from collectors there. I just think the thing with the Sharks this year, and you see this a lot with the young players, and I'm going to be interested to get your opinion on this, is on one hand, they're just going to be brutal. So he's not going to be like fighting for roster spots or fighting for depth chart opportunity. But so like compare like his situation to a guy like Dawson Mercer, who goes into a really good team, has to earn a little
Yeah.
bit more, but has a much better infrastructure and players to model the NHL game around him. If you were drafted to the NHL, what would you prefer? Would you prefer to go to a better team?
Well,
Or
yeah. I would prefer like the route that gives me the most money, which is making the squad right away.
sure,
But for development purposes, I think Dawson Mercer is actually, even though you might struggle a little bit, having a better team and having to fight your way to a spot, to an opening day roster or higher top 6 role probably
yeah,
helps better for your development than just kind of, oh, you're here you go, just kind of go out. We'll see what you do, because it seems like a lot of those guys, when they throw them in right away and they struggle, it really derails them for like a year or two, or years even.
yeah. And situation matters. Like they talk about it with NFL quarterbacks all the time. that get drafted.
Mm-hmm.
That you get into a bad situation, you get into just an environment that's not positive, or you just don't kind of mesh with, and it makes it really difficult. And so, hopefully he'll get off to a good start. I know there's
Yep.
a lot of people that are pretty invested in him already. So those were the 7 that I came up with. A good list in your opinion? Anyone
I
else?
like.
Anyone, Troy? You think I left off?
Off the top of my head, I'm sure there's people out there we could have added, but
Oh, I had 12 originally. So like there was
okay.
guys
Well,
like
thank God
Dylan
we can get.
Gunther was another one. Actually, I thought about a goalie, Akira Schmid, because he talked about the Devils, and that's the one
So
thing that might be holding them back
you know
this
what?
year.
You know what goalie I'm getting really hyped on? Devin
Oh,
Levi.
I know you are.
I'm getting really hyped on him. I've loved the footage I've seen on training camp and stuff, and plus he's got the whole meditation thing. It's kind of a perfect storm. Now again, it's a goalie. All right, we know goalie is tough to
But you
invest
need a
in.
guy. You need a current guy, though. I think
Yeah,
that's part of like a problem for you, and just like staying engaged in what's coming out, is that kind of a guy that you're PCing, kind of like you had
yeah,
Ottinger back in
yep,
2020. You haven't really had a guy since that.
yeah. So maybe I mean I'm. It looks like all signs are pointing towards Devin Levi. But I thought Gunther would have been a good one. I think is that what you said? Dylan Gunther
Yeah,
was on your
Gunther,
list.
and there's a couple other guys that I had. Like I said, I pared it down to 7 because we'd
Yeah.
be here all night. But so we'll probably get into people, and we're gonna, I think, do once a week, start doing rookie deep dives
Yeah.
again in the next
Yep.
couple weeks, and we'll get a chance to cover all these guys. All right, and as we mentioned, I think next show we're gonna start digging into our 2023-24 rookies, so that'll be pretty cool.
Awesome.
All right, Trey, we got to make a quick mention for Gongshow partner and sponsor Slab Sharks. Of course, thank them for their support. Remember that the weekly Slab Sharks eBay auction ends tonight, Thursday night. There are amazing hockey cards in the auction. This is one you're definitely not going to want to miss. I just did, before we started recording, kind of our weekly picks story post on Instagram, and we
Yeah.
had a bunch of comments from people saying, "Holy cow, this auction is amazing!"
I
And
I have to
it
go
is.
out after the show and look because I totally forgot about the slap
Oh, there's
sharks.
some like big cards
See, look at
in
this. Look
in
at
the
this.
auction.
You don't think I use my own? Was it don't get high on your own supply? Slap
Yeah.
sharks. Look at slap sharks. I got my Pekka, a couple other cards that aren't hockey related, but I
Well,
got slap shark packages coming all the time.
yeah, we're net negative in our support
Yeah.
for our show, but that's all right. We love them. Also, if you're a Canadian hockey card collector or looking for an easy and hassle-free way to sell your cards, Troy and I would recommend looking into Slabshark's eBay consignment services. They make it super easy to sell your cards because, well, they do all the work for you. They take the photos of your cards, they create the listings, answer buyer questions, hunt down payment, ship to both US and Canada, and handle any post-sale issues, which is obviously huge. Plus, your cards get listed in their very popular and growing weekly eBay auctions. And they do a lot of like work with eBay Canada. Like I think they're
Hmm.
promoted on the homepage of eBay Canada. They do a lot to promote all the listings. So it's not just like it's different than just listing your
Yeah.
card yourself. You're going to get more eyeballs on the auction, your cards when you put them in their auction. So make sure to check out slabsharks.com for complete consignment information, including payout rates, and to get started consigning your cards today. Happy news!
Hobby news. Oh boy. Here we go.
Our
Here we go.
guy, Trevor Zegras, he's in a little bit of a situation,
Yep.
and I'm kind of feeling like I'm on his side a little bit. It's Anaheim is really playing hardball, like pretty like I feel like they just don't like him.
Yeah.
And
Is Pat Verbeek the GM?
yes, and
Yeah, and
and
it
I,
sounds
I
like
just
he's
don't
kind
think
of a
he's a
tough guy.
yeah, I don't think that Zegras is probably any of the type of player Verbeek likes. He wants a hard nose, like grinder type, not a Michigan goal
Yeah.
kind of flashy type guy. So Anaheim basically offered him, Troy, a 3-year deal at 4 million average annual value,
Okay.
which is very problematic in a couple reasons. Number one, if the whole idea is to do a prove it deal, 3 years is
Well, that's a bridge deal, man. That's just
yeah.
like we want to get you in here, but we're not ready to commit.
But I think like
Uh,
2 years is probably more appropriate for
yeah.
that if you're going to ask him to
Oh,
take a
true,
little bit
true.
less money to prove it. And then the 4 million. So it seems like Zegras sees himself kind of like on the Jack Hughes level, right? Which is like 8 to 9 million a year.
Yep.
Now remember, he's our leading scorer last year. I'm
Yeah,
not saying that there's not problems with his game or he doesn't have to get engaged more on the defensive side of the ice, but he's 22 years old, led your team in scoring, and that is not the market rate for a young, promising prospect that you like and want to be a part of your team. So I kind of get the perspective of Zegras here. And it sounds like, too, that they're kind of doing the same thing to Jamie Drysdale, too. Like he's not in
yeah,
camp either.
yeah. So okay, so Zegers currently is unsigned, right? He just
Yeah.
his contract expired.
Or
I
is
was trying to,
Drysdale.
yeah, I was gonna say I'm on Cap Friendly. If anyone, it's the best hockey contract website out there, and I'm look. He has another year of pro hockey before he was eligible for arbitration because I was going to see how if he was
Oh,
arbitration eligible. But yeah, it's okay. So that's interesting. Yeah.
long story short, it seems like they're miles apart as far
Yes.
as where they're at. Well, we're starting to see trade rumors now and starting to
Yep.
see articles
Yep.
that because if you're that far apart, it might be feelings are going to get hurt,
Yes.
right? I'm sure Zegras is not feeling like that he is part of their long term plans or valued there. And the early team that seems to be coming up is Buffalo. Does that interest you at all?
Oh,
The idea of Zegras in
I
Buffalo?
would, as long as you don't lose a good. I mean, you're gonna have to give up someone. Buffalo's gonna, if they're gonna get Zegers in a trade, they got to make a decision on who they're giving up on one of those good youth young talent that they have. But yeah, I would love to see him in Buffalo. Where's he from? Is he Michigan? Zegers from Michigan, or is
Something like
he?
that. I know he's from the U.S.
I'll
He
look it
might
up.
be from New England because
All right, if
he
you're
went to
here.
college in Boston, right?
Oh, he's New York,
He's from New
Bedford, New
York.
York. He could have grown up somewhere else, but that's what I just looked at hockey
Well,
reference
how
real
far is
quick.
Bedford to Buffalo? It's got to be pretty close, huh?
I have no idea.
Google Map it, try. I guess.
Google Map it.
The one that I think I was listening. I think we made it in Spit and Chicklets, another podcast where they mentioned maybe like Erasmus as an option, like Rasmus Dahlin for Zegras and Drysdale. But it sounds like that people were overwhelmingly against that, given that a guy like Rasmus Dahlin, who is a huge, awesome, like number one defenseman with a bullet, like you would never do something like that. And I don't know, this whole thing is kind of wild to me because I honestly, he's on the West Coast. We haven't done like these huge deep dives into Trevor Zegras. I think, have just gone off of card values and Instagram clips and TikTok clips, but man, it seems like in NHL circles, Troy, there's just not a lot of love for this guy there.
And it could be the whole old boys club thing where you get some young cocky kid and they don't like
Yeah.
it. And I don't agree with that. I actually kind of dig the attitude. Obviously, you can't be a
Yeah.
complete jerk to everyone. So, and we have no insight to the behind the scenes stuff. But I do have an update. It seems like Bedford is right by New York City.
Okay. So not exactly by Buffalo.
No, it's
Putting them
looks
on a
like,
team though
yeah.
with Tage Thompson would give them two very exciting players, of course. It puts them in the Eastern time zone. It's very close to Toronto, so you're going to get a lot more exposure
Mhm.
around Zegras. If they do make the playoffs, it could put him in meaningful games. I thought I've seen a couple maybe suggestions too in articles about putting him at wing. I assume he wouldn't want to because they don't make the money that centers do. But the idea, Troy, was that if he is challenged defensively, whether it be by just effort or desire or whatever it
Yeah.
is, that you can hide some of those defensive issues playing wing and still
Yeah.
keep your offensive game going versus playing at center. But I don't know. So do you think Anaheim is making a mistake playing
Well,
hardball to the degree they are here?
I think I do. I would want him on my team, but I obviously don't know all the behind the scenes stuff. Do you know how this works? Is he's a restricted free agent? At what point, if it doesn't work out, does he get to does he have to be traded? Is that the only way he can move? I don't know all
I
the
think it's sit
RFAs.
out or be traded or sign.
Yeah, and then if there's compensation stuff, all that. Yeah, you want fun? Go read the NHL collective bargaining agreement.
Oh,
That
jeez.
you might fall asleep, but it's pretty crazy.
But he's very marketable, even in
Yeah,
Anaheim. Like you'd have to. Again, I'm not an expert on the Anaheim fan base, but there's no way he's not the most popular player there. And every kid is going to have a Trevor Zegras jersey.
Yeah.
He was on the cover of NHL 23.
Well, yeah,
And
everyone knows who he is because every single youth hockey kid does that Michigan goal, and they're in their mind, he's the one that did it, right? Zegras is synonymous with the Michigan goal for young kids.
yes, just a wild situation. It'll
Yep.
be. I feel like though in these situations that cooler heads prevail, and
Yeah.
he'll end up probably back with Anaheim. But you know if there'd be bad blood at this point, and then you have to, I don't know how important do you think the preseason is for a guy like him? Is it gonna? Would you expect him to start slow if he signs?
I think hockey preseason is really important. Where football, you can get around playing a snap. Obviously, you're not going to play a full 60 game, but I think hockey players, especially at the end, they need to get in and get, you call it what, game shape, right? We call it game shape. Like, it's hard to do just through practice, unless you go to John Tortorella's Flyers gauntlet. Did you hear the gauntlet?
No.
Because Tortorella's infamous for making like a skating gauntlet.
Yeah.
And people are just puking, passing out. It's crazy.
Oh my God. Well, Zegras is a 2021 Young Guns. His PSA 10 popped 962, 29% gem rate.
Yep.
So another guy with a low gem
Yep.
rate. That sold for 151 US on September 23rd. It's down about 5% in the past month. And again, there's another example of hype. 160 points last year, $151, and his team doesn't even want it. We'll see what happens. Well, speaking of NHL,
oh boy,
the NHL 24 player ratings are out, and you did some digging into that.
Yeah, I didn't do that much digging. We just thought it'd be a fun segment. Hey, we like video games. We want to talk about NHL, but it's one of those things. It's really becoming a big deal is when EA Sports releases their player ratings for all the different positions, categories, and they're just always fun to kind of look at. And they came out.
I got a question for you before I look at it, though.
Yeah.
And this is kind of one of the reasons why I really thought this was worthwhile to put on the show. Given that so many young people and so many young hockey fans play the EA NHL game, there's a part of me that thinks that stuff like this is really important as it relates to hype.
It is totally important, and it's totally important to get your players known. My son can name off every player from every team because he plays NHL.
Yeah.
That's how he knows who these players are. It's not like he might watch some games when I'm watching, but it's from NHL that he's learning everything and who all these players are and if they're any good and all that stuff. So yeah, it's a huge, huge thing. And let me skip ahead a little in my notes here. But the one thing I really dig about NHL ratings are that it's always been around, but it just, you see more players being very vocal when their ratings are lower than they think they should be. And that stuff always cracks me up, or when they go the other route and they're like, oh, that's really high for me. Like almost ripping on themselves. So I always think that's great, but it's just fun to look at and gives you kind of an insight to what NHL and what the game's thinking. Because I mean, they try to do their best to mimic what is real life for all these situations. So if you're watching YouTube, I'm going to pull them up real quick. You'll see the full list. I'm not going to read every single name from every single list, but anything that's kind of interesting. So the first one they came out with was Slapshot Power. I would have never guessed Ovi as number one for Slapshot Power. I'm not even sure Slapshot Power matters, because if anyone's watched hockey, the slapshot's kind of a dying thing. We know right now from analytics, goalies, it's too much time for them. They'll be lined up, better chance of a save. So slapshots are kind of dying out. You still get them from the point, maybe on a power play and stuff, but it's now mostly snapshots. And
what is a one-timer considered? Is that considered a slap shot?
It depends. Like, do you bring your stick all the way up? Is it just a quick release? There's so many different things, but it's interesting. OV1.
How much slower are snapshots and slap shots? Are they about the same speed?
They're getting to where they're almost the same.
Yeah.
That's why snapshots are the shot, because it's so much quicker. And like slapshots they're dying. You can go read the analytics. There's stories about it too. But yeah, so again, Slapshot Power, maybe not that big a deal. OV number one. The next one that came out was Wrist Shot Power, and that's another thing. It's like wrist shot. Why didn't you do snapshot? Because wrist shot, you imagine the guy pulling the puck way back, so like you're in your garage shooting. And again, they had Ovi listed 1, Draisaitl 2, Austin Matthews 3, Patrick Laine at 4. I wouldn't have guessed that.
He was on the Slapshot. He was rated pretty high too.
Was he? Yeah, he was 4th on Slapshot.
No Ryan Suter though, huh?
Dead last. I can promise you he's probably dead last. All right, so the next one they came out with, body checking, because we got to have our body checks. I just wanted to see where Reeves was because he was at Minnesota last year. That's the one thing I noticed about this guy. He's a tank out there, man. He can hit. He doesn't really get pushed around or moved over or anything, but I think all the guys on this list, they had Jacob Trouba, number 1, Luke Shen, 2, Reeves, 3, Milan and Lucius is 4. We have another wild guy for our wild fans, Marcus Foligno at 10. I don't see it. The only thing he did was the Superman punch in that one fight, but
he's hurt all the time.
He's hurt and he takes dumb penalties. So that's the checkers. But now we're getting to the meat of it. Top 10. So they did the right wingers was the first position they came out.
Okay, so what's interesting about this is when you look at this and then you think of like where these guys stand in the hobby.
Dude, we're idiot. We have the same brain. That was literally the next sentence out of my mouth. But keep going. Yeah.
Okay. No, you go ahead.
No, it's just you're saying what I was to say. Look at the names and then could we have a more perfect top 10 hobby no love team or whatever for how good these guys are? This is it. This is your top 10 list right here.
Yeah, not a lot of hobby love for right wings. I mean, that's one thing you learn by looking at this list. That's for sure.
Yeah, but people not watching, Pasta was number 1 at a 95. I guess I haven't been reading off their actual ratings. Just know they're about upper 90 or mid 90s if they're number 1. And then Kucherov. I don't know why he's on the right wings because he's a D-man, but whatever. They want to put him there. Just kidding. It's a joke. And then Ratnan rounds out the top 3.
Mark Stone is the 5th best right
I saw that one. I was like, okay, Mark Stone.
And Patrick Kane is still what the 8th?
You got to remember, too, though, these guys probably have contracts with EA. They got to, like, because you'll see one of these where it's the cover athletes, the first one, and I'm like, really?
Joe Pavelski, number 10. He's like 95 years old.
Yep.
Holy cow.
So that was top right wingers. Left wingers, Matthew Tkachuk. Part of these two, I forgot to mention this. I can't remember if it's all of them, but part of them were due to fan input too.
Okay.
So that affected their ratings.
Yeah, I have a big issue with number 2. There's no way that Panarin,
the bread man, is that number 2 for the left wingers?
Jason Robertson or
Kirill
or Ovechkin or
yeah. So then 6.
I know he's a good player, but
yeah, I agree. 2 brothers on there. Brady Tkachuk's number 8.
Yeah.
All right.
It is crazy.
Right D, obviously McCarr's number 1. He's number 1 overall in the game at a 95. Or he's the highest D man in the game. Sorry. 95 is the highest D man in the game. And then this is for right D. It's McCarr, Charlie McAvoy, and then Adam Fox are your top 3. Erik Karlsson at number 4. I thought that was Mo Seider at number 9. I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
And then for lefty, obviously Roman Josi, Victor Hedman, Rasmus Dahlin, Quinn Hughes, Miro Heiskanen are the top 5. And then some other guys in the top 5 or round out the top 10, but I'm not going to name them all off. And then here's an interesting one. This was where I had some issues. So they did this was actually today. I wrote this and I was like, I should look and see if they did anyone else. And of course,
we kind of jumped the shark because they haven't even done centers yet, which is probably the most important. But we don't care. We're interested. We're doing it anyways.
They might have released it like with the who knows when they were like I looked at like 3:00 Central Time Wednesday and found the new one. So top 10 goalies, they got Vasi at 1 and Sorokin at 2. I would flip them for sure. I don't know. Next one was Shesterkin at 3, Hellebuck, and then Allmark. I think Allmark's totally is really hard to put where to put him. They were just such a strong team, and he had a fantastic season. But I guess we'll see more this year. I think we both have issues at number 8 with Frederick Anderson. Yeah. I don't see a Carolina goalie being in the top 10, but it is what it is. Andre at 6, Saros at 7. I think Saros might be a little low. He's really good, and 7 just seems a little low to me. But again, it's EA's ratings. And then we're going to quickly go through the top 10 dekers. Cale Makar is number 1. I never known Makar to be a good deker. He did have that one play, though. I remember where he spun off.
He's a better deker than Connor McDavid.
Yeah. Now this is where I get back to who's the cover athlete, Cale Makar. So top 3 dekers were Makar, McDavid, Pasta. and then they do a top 24, under 24,
Stutzla.
and Jack Hughes. Yeah. Jack Hughes 1, Darlene 2, Quinn Hughes 3, Stutzla 4, and then Svechnikov's 5. Guys we mentioned, Zegras was at number 7. Cousins is down here at 12.
Yeah, talked about him today. That's
Yep. Boldy. Yeah, there's a bunch of guys. Just go find it. You'll it's all over the place. You can find it everywhere. And then finally, Josh, this will be the last point I make. They would come out with the list, and then they'd tweet out individual pictures, EA Sports Twitter account or X account. And if you're watching on YouTube, that's the picture of Kirill Kaprizov. That is not Kirill Kaprizov. I'm sorry. That might be Matt Boldy, might be a mashup of Boldy, Kaprizov, and a bunch of other players, but that's not Kaprizov. I'm convinced that's not him.
Well, number one, he's always smiling.
Yeah.
Always smiling. Like every picture you see in him, so it's a weird sort of AI avatar kind of thing.
We got issues with them on that, but anyways, go find the ratings. It's always fun to look at.
Honest question though here's my last question for you on this. What do you think Bedard's initial rating is?
I bet 90. You got to get him in the 90s. Think
it'll be that low?
I don't. It'd be hard to, because McDavid will probably come in 96, 97.
They don't have any 99s. Like football always has 99s.
Oh, they might. They probably will, but I think he's got to be in the 90s. I would guess low 90s is what I'm going.
I'm gonna say 93. I'm gonna go out on a limb.
Okay.
You're saying 90. I'm gonna say 93. We'll see what happens there. I want to switch over to new product releases real quick. So today, Wednesday, the day we're recording, 2022-23. Speaking of Brady Tkachuk, he's on the box of SPx, the hobby box that just came out. As we typically do, went out to our LCS and got our hands on a box and get a little taste of the product for ourselves. As you guys might recall, SPx is another one of these one-pack products where it comes with 5 cards in a box. It was $125 US for the box, so it's about $25 a card. I guess a little bit more if you add in taxes. And Troy, SPx is a product that has pretty deep roots in hockey. It goes back to 1996. You'll often see in this product a lot of die cut and hologram cards. I guess that's what I think of when I think of
technology.
SPx.
A lot of technology.
A lot of tech. Biggest public SPx hockey sale ever was $20,655 US for this 2005. If you're watching on YouTube, Ovechkin. It's a jersey on swatch auto, PSA 9 out of 10, but very uncommon. It's a 3-color jersey. Swatch, which you don't see. It's a pretty cool looking card for a jersey card. $20,000 though. Heck of a lot of money for that. If you think about other cards in the SPx lineage, another highly recognizable one from the 90s are those dual views, like this 1997 Gretzky dual view auto out of 100, PSA 8 auto 10 that's over $11,700 US in July of 2022. I've never been a big fan of these cards because it's like you have basically 3 pictures of Gretzky, and then he kind of covers his whole face in one of them by signing the autograph. But I know a lot of people really like these cards. Are you a fan of these dual views?
I am, just for the fact that I think I just realized something. Is this looking like, see how it's wavy here? Is that supposed to be an S? And then kind of the loop is the P, and then there's an X in the back?
I think so.
That's cool. Now I like it even more. I like the cards, but I agree with you 100%. I hate the auto over the face. I wish they could have found a way to give them a spot to put the auto in a better.
It is amazing though that auto has lasted on top of a hologram that long, that clear
for sure. And
these are looking at like.
Go ahead. I was gonna say some of the SPX that were broken today. I was watching some breaks. Some of the autos looked a little faded. Not a lot. I saw one maybe or two that were already kind of faded. So that just tells you that this one's actually held up really, really well.
And again, these are older cards. The Ovechkin's from 2005. This is 1996. But one of the things we want to start to do as these sets come out is kind of give you guys an idea of like what maybe the potential long-term upside is of some of these products. Is it a set that has lasting recognition, has those identity cards that
Hmm.
people will refer to from years to come? And so there's just a couple examples. But like you mentioned though, too, from your, and this goes back to your checklist review. I think you did 2 shows back, maybe, where one of the bonuses in SPX is you find the UD Black, where they have the
Yep.
lustrous cards and some stuff like that. And for those that are watching on YouTube, I found an example of a card pulled today. It's a Jonathan Bergeron that was uh, obviously pulled on release day and listed on
Yep.
eBay. So these black cards are pretty cool. Really nice patches. It is a hard signed auto. I did
Yep.
zoom in really closely to check that out.
Oh yeah, it does look like it. Better pictures, please, from eBay sellers.
Yeah. Trying to sell
The
$500
diagonal.
card with
Yeah.
a terrible picture.
Yeah.
Overall, I was happy with the 5 cards we got in our box. We were going to do a pack opening video, so I'm not going to go into who they were, but the quality seemed to be pretty good. It's tough to tell how any cards are going to do on the secondary market on the first day it comes out. So we'll see how it shakes out over the next
Yep.
couple of weeks. But there are cool cards in this set, and well, I guess I will say we got like a shadow box, which I think are really cool, look very nice this year. Of foiling and the hologram, and then those are thicker cards. We got one of those grand finale. What did you call the grand finale bubble cards, Troy?
Tiny bubbles.
Tiny bubble
Tiny
cards.
bubbles.
Out of 50, that's pretty cool. But ultimately, kind of the challenge like that I had today is when you open a box that has 5 cards in it, you're not going to get to see all the cards that the set has to offer. I mean, there's tons and tons of different
Yep.
options, so you're just getting a very small sample size. And then when you look at it from an ROI perspective, i- in any of these cases with these one pack boxes, it's more almost about the player's name than the card itself. Like you
Yep.
get some really cool cards and some players that don't have a lot of value and get killed on the box. And so, that's something you got to keep in mind. And like I said, with all these kind of one pack boxes we've had releasing lately, that, and I feel this about it, SPX too, that it might be a better breaking product than, or
Yep.
just buy the player you like on the secondary markets as a single, because
Yeah.
again, you got 5 cards for
Well, yeah, if you break this
100 bucks.
product by itself, it has to be a case break. You just can't break one box or you'll have too many upset people.
And I'm sure it's just the way things have worked out. But man, it seems like every one of these releases lately, Troy, going back to Stature, Black Diamond, Ultimate Collection, now SPX, I probably forgot one, have all been a lot, I don't know, I consider 25, 30, 40, $50 a card. Like some of
Yeah.
these are is a lot of money. And it did make me think though, when I was kind of looking back at the last couple months of releases, if you remember, we asked Grant Sandground when he was on the show about would Upper Deck ever consider, or are they planning to design products or configure products or position them specifically for breakers? And he made
Yep.
a point that was, actually think pretty astute, saying that a lot of our products already are pretty designed well for breakers, and like all
Yeah.
the list I just went through that are these one pack boxes seem to fit the bill. I don't know. Are you having the same feeling I am? Are you kind of looking forward to Flagship where we get lots of cards for
Yeah.
our what? Well, this one will be 120 bucks, but
Yeah.
um,
I'm looking forward to flagship, more cards, but it's like every time I think I want to go buy one of these products, I just go back to it's not a smart idea. Not a smart idea. You're gonna get killed. You're gonna get killed. 25, $30, $40 card. And I pulled the trigger on a account like Stature, but I haven't because I really like Stature. But these other ones, I can't come around yet. So maybe I need to
well,
see
here's
some
where I
cards drop
struggle
or
with
something.
the 2022 hobby class is
Yeah,
had we not had
true.
our show and need to have the product and need to understand what it is and want to have a video for Instagram, I would have never bought it.
Yeah,
Because when you think of like this rookie class, who's a guy would be a rookie I'd be really excited to hit? I don't know if any of them.
yeah, agree.
I mean, there's some that I find interesting, but there's no like Cole Caulfield or Kaprizov
Yep,
or Jason Robertson type of hit. It's just guys that personally I'm not all that thrilled about. So
yep.
we'll see what happens. It is an interesting set, interesting cards, and
Yeah, cards are great. I think.
I'm a fan of the SPX brand as it is. Okay, so we got to do a little bit of a follow up on
Yes.
kind of the main. God, this blew my mind. I was so confused. So we spent a lot of time on our last show talking about 2023-24 Series 2 selling out, which has Connor Bedard, right? That's where his Young Guns will be in.
Yeah.
And because it was sold out. And then all of a sudden it wasn't. uh,
All right, I'm
and
gonna put the picture
yeah,
up for
put the
everyone.
picture on because we need to we need to go back and go through the timeline here.
Yes.
And I mentioned this on our last show too. I woke up on Sunday morning. I'm looking at my phone. I have an email from David Adams, and we're showing it on YouTube, but I'm going to read it,
Yep.
right? Because it's really important to look at their words. And it says, "It's now or never. Claim yours before we sell out." And then there's a big picture of a Series 2 hobby box. So now or never clearly implies to me that it's your last chance, right? Because apparently their definition of never is not my definition of never. So we do a whole show to lots of people and we talk about how it's sold out on David Adams. And then Monday morning I wake up and I'm sure you do the same thing. Our show posts in the middle of the night when we're sleeping.
Yeah.
And so I always make sure it's like, oh, did we like screw up? Make sure that it's there and that it's on the podcast.
Which we
app.
have screwed up before.
Yeah, we have screwed it up. And that it's on YouTube. And I see right away there's a YouTube comment at like 7:30 in the morning. And I'm like, oh wow, somebody listened already. I go in and I check the comment, and this person graciously said, by the way, as of 7 a.m., David Adams has Series 2 pre-sales in stock. And so, what the heck, David Adams?
Yeah.
You go from on Sunday to saying it's now or never to, oh, it's back in stock on Monday morning.
Do you think Upper Deck paid for another printer?
Yeah, I'm not going to go like deep into like conspiracy theories or that there was like deceptive agendas here. It's probably, if I had to guess, it was some sort of mix up between maybe what they had allocated on the e-commerce platform selling out versus that they didn't allocate the whole bunch, or I'm just going to call it a mix up, but it's not a good look, right?
Yeah.
And if anyone had any notions that there was some chicanery happening here on the marketing, like we talked about, like, is there going to be supply and demand manipulation happening? This does not at all support that this isn't going down, because how do you magically go from Sunday it's now or never to, oh, it's back? And I believe I checked today, it's been in stock ever since.
To me it's shady. I don't know what to make of it. It's probably as a screw up, but like when I was kind of talking over you, I said, what did Upper Deck Con say, that they fired up a couple more printers to get more cards out or what? But yeah, most likely it's probably miscommunication between the business or between marketing and whoever puts stuff up. And I don't know. It just seems really odd. This looks bad. It doesn't look great when you say it's now or never, but whatever.
Yeah, maybe go a little less emphatic or less definitive on your words, but we'll continue to follow it because this whole Connor Bedard thing never gets old. Okay, Troy. So I did a little bit of a research project this week because I apparently have no life and nothing better to do. And like you had mentioned in our game plan, I had just been thinking about PSA. I don't know. I think I'd seen a bunch of like Young Guns PSA 9s, and it struck me that we haven't looked into sort of where they stand from a values perspective in relationship to PSA 10 and relationship to raw and all that. And so I kind of wanted to look into it. And I'll be the first to admit too, I've never been able to convince myself to buy into the Young Guns PSA 9 as an investment.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always been sort of in the PSA 10 or bust camp, if that's the route you want to go. And so what I like to do in these cases is challenge my own assumptions and try to see if I could learn anything. Before we get into kind of what I found out and the data, though, like I said, we're only looking at Young Guns. The reason is because I'm only ultra modern, because there's a lot of them out there. You get a lot of data. And I think the grade is more consistently applied to values, where what we see with a lot of vintage cards and a lot of thick cards or specialty cards like PMGs, where a PSA 9 PMG is like a miracle,
Yeah.
right? That it's such a high grade that you would never expect it. So you can't factor it in there, or you get these like cup cards and stuff like that, where we see cards that are 8.5s with 10 autos that sell for tens of thousands of dollars because nobody cares as much with the cards for some reason
Hmm.
as they do with like the 20-point regular Young Guns, where it really does seem to matter. And the same thing applies to vintage too. Was it Stan Mikita has no PSA 10s, right?
Yep.
So it's not a factor there. But lots of people are into Young Guns and collecting, quote unquote, investing. And we're gonna have a whole crop coming out. We're gonna have Connor Bedard that is gonna make an appearance this year, and I'm sure his nines will fetch a pretty penny there too. And so the key question I want to answer is, in the past, that it seems like that we're I guess we have seen a lot of variability in PSA 10 values for key players over the last 2 years. We had huge spikes during the pandemic. Then it's kind of like come down to earth a little bit. And I wanted to see how stable the PSA 9 pricing has been, particularly as a ratio to the PSA 10 value. Or, more simply put, is the PSA 9 stable, or is the values kind of all over the place? So what I did try is I took a dozen players and looked at their Young Guns PSA 10 values and compared them as a ratio to their PSA 9 values over the past 2 years. So I measured 2 years ago compared to 1 year ago, compared to 6 months, and then today. So I looked at 4 different data points. And the dozen players I used were for their both PSA 9 and PSA 10 values were McDavid, Austin Matthews, Ovechkin, Crosby, Jack Hughes, Kaprizov, Matthew Tkachuk, Mitch Marner, Leon Draisaitl, and Nathan McKinnon. So kind of the bigger, more top tier forward scoring type players. And here's what I found, Troy, is that as a ratio, PSA 9 values have actually been really consistent, like very consistent or stable over the past couple of years. So if you combined all like if you took all these 12 players and added up their PSA 10 values and then add up their PSA 9 values and then compared the ratio, 2 years ago, PSA 9 values were about 38% of PSA 10s.
Hmm.
A year ago, it was about 40%. 6 months ago, it was 35%. And today, it's back to about 40%. So like I said, pretty consistent.
Hmm.
And in general, that rule of thumb that we've kind of always known, that a PSA 9 to 10 is about a 2.5 times multiplier. From a Young Guns, that seems to be very consistent and very much the case. The next thing I wanted to do is look and add like the raw card values to this and kind of compare the ratio between raw cards and PSA 9 and ultimately PSA 10. And I'll admit, Troy, I got like 20 minutes into it and just completely stopped, because as sort of evolved my thinking and looking at card analytics, it's impossible to do any data on raw cards
Yeah.
because the condition plays such a factor in price. I'll give you guys a great example. So if you look like on Card Ladder, the last raw sale of a Connor McDavid Young Guns base card is $296. Now this is a card that the sale before that was $1,200.
Yeah.
So you go to the eBay listing and it says huge crease in the,
Yeah.
so makes a lot of sense. Why would, but the problem is that there's so many cases that are not black and white like that,
Yeah.
that where maybe like the corners are a little bad and so the only way to really do some sort of any meaningful, I think, analysis of raw card values compared to graded is to spend a whole lot of time, have like almost like a grader look at the condition,
Yeah.
and it just got like so complicated, honestly.
Well, plus
I gave up.
it the listing's important too. Like you guys said, a
Yeah.
huge crease, but even the picture could stink and no one can tell. It's blurry. It might be a 10. It might gem if you send it in, but you can't tell because the picture's crap.
You know,
So
another thing that's really common with raw Young Guns that makes a lot of them feel undervalued, or that like that show like big price dips, is oftentimes, and you have to be really mindful of this when you're looking at comps, you'll see like, okay, raw Young Gun sells for 500, 500, 500, 220. You're like, what? What happened? It's the Young Gun jumbos.
Yes, I run into that. I remember doing, or when you do research, yeah, those
So if you
jumbos
just
always.
search for like
Yep,
Jack Hughes Young Guns, you're
yep,
gonna come up with a bunch of prices, and then you're gonna get the Young Guns jumbos
yep,
in there as well. And if you don't catch those, that can change your perception of the value of the card there. So yeah, I mean, I wish there was some big, like, dramatic conclusion other than I suppose it's good that it's consistent. It's about 40%, which is a 2.5
yep,
times multiplier from PSA 9 to PSA 10. And I think, like, where will you can say, well, so what? Where is this meaningful? A couple ways that I would use this information. So if I'm gonna buy a PSA 9 of a Young Gun, I'm not gonna pay more than 40% of PSA 10.
hmm
Even in an outlier situation, I probably wouldn't do it, is because I just know that, in aggregate, looking at, like, the macro of how these Young Guns values, perform in relation to each other, it seems like that's sort of, like, where it consistently should be. And then I guess if you're willing to do it, you just have to know that you're overpaying.
yeah,
That's probably the way that but it did get me thinking about Young Guns PSA 9s, if my own personal opinion has changed at all. And so I know that you're not like the investy type, but I guess too, Troy, where I think that this is a big deal is that you look at these Young Gun PSA 9s for a Kaprizov, it's like not much. But when you get into like the McDavid and Ovechkin, they're over a
yes,
grand.
yep,
And I get the appeal. If I don't have 5 grand or I don't want to spend 5 grand on an Ovechkin Young Guns, but I would spend maybe 1,500 on a PSA 9 as a
yep,
PC. Who cares, right?
yep.
Enjoy the card, get the card, enjoy it. But if I want to do it as an investment or with the hopes that it goes up, I don't know. Are you, given the high print runs and huge pop counts we're seeing in PSA 10s? Does that shy you away from PSA 9s, or do you think in certain circumstances it makes sense?
I don't probably for me, I probably would stay away. I'm not a big PSA 9 guy from the investment standpoint. I would probably rather go for the 10. The only thing I think it makes sense is like the example you gave, where it's something that's out of your budget, but then you can step back one grade and maybe now it falls in your budget. Then I would look at that. But that's the only way I would go there over a 10. I know some people disagree and think nines are a great play. And they might be right. But
Well, and I think the fact that the ratio is consistent does support that,
yep.
because if it was
Yep.
all over the place, then I would say, so that at any given moment, whatever the PSA 10 is doing, you would expect the PSA 9 to roughly be about 40% of that, or 35 to 40%, somewhere in that range of that value. And yeah,
Hmm.
it's like, to me, it's like the most interesting case was the Ovechkin case, because I would love to have an Ovechkin Young Guns just from like a PC perspective. But if I'm going to buy a PSA 10 and spend 5 grand or 4,500 on it, whatever it is right now, I don't want to just like throw that money away.
Hmm.
And that feels like a lot and a big risk for a base Young Guns, even though it's a lower pop. I think it's like 900 or 1,000. I mean, it's not like a huge, ridiculous pop or anything like that. But I also don't know if spending $1,600 on a PSA 9 is a good move either. And
Yeah.
so that card in of itself is really tricky to me, as much as I would want one. Okay, we got to move on. It's time for our PWCC weekly preview. PWCC, of course, is a partner and sponsor of our show. Many thanks to them for their continued support. Reminder, the September vintage auction ends tonight, so you still have a chance to bid on and win either the 1979 OPG Wayne Gretzky rookie PSA 8 or the sealed wax box of 1985 OPG that, of course, has the Mario Lemieux rookie in the set. So I got curious about this, and I'm just curious to see if there's an update too. And just to see like what this box had gone for. So what's the current bid on that? Is it still
Eight.
77?
Nope.
Oh,
8,250 US.
okay, 8,250 US. So I did some historic, and I didn't even put it in our notes because I don't want to tip you off. I'm going to give you a multiple choice question here, Troy.
Mm.
For the all-time high sale for one of these 1985 OPG sealed wax boxes, it's multiple choice. So has it sold for A is $10,000 US, B is $20,000 US, or C is $30,000 US?
I'm gonna say B, 20,000.
The answer is C. It sold for
Wow.
30,000 US in May of
Wow.
2022.
Holy cow.
Yeah. I don't think it'll go anywhere near that
No.
anymore. And honestly, I'm not even sure that makes sense because I haven't done the math, or I'm sure people have can tell you on average how many Lemieux are in a box. But again, it's not like it's a guaranteed PSA 10. It's
Yeah, they
actually
gotta, yeah, that's the kicker, right?
the even if you open it, you would think at 30,000 that I'm gonna have 60,000 in Lemieux cards. That's probably not the case. You might have like two PSA 8s
Mm-hmm.
and a PSA 9, which is not even probably 10 grand or something like that. Yeah, I thought 30,000 was a lot. So I'll be curious to see where that one ends up. Be sure to head to pwccmarketplace.com to go ahead and place your bids. Also, Jeremy Lee and I will be live this upcoming Sunday night for our PWCC Weekly Hockey Watch Party on Jeremy's YouTube channel, Sports Cards Live, starting at 8:30 Central Standard Time. I hope you all can make it, hang out with us. We'll react to all the key hockey cards closing in the auction, answer questions, get good feedback from the chat. It's a lot of fun. We've now been doing this like 6 months, so we have people that come every Sunday and participate with us, and it's really cool. It's it feels like a little community, so I have a
Yep,
lot of fun doing it. But it is our Thursday show. Not sure if you knew that, Troy.
I did.
Okay, that's good.
Mhm.
Every Thursday, we pick out our favorite vintage and modern cards from the current PWCC Weekly to highlight and learn more about. And like we always do, we're going to start with our favorite vintage cards. This one was a little light on the vintage side, so not a lot of cards overall. But that presents an opportunity. It's not just like Bobby Orr, Gordie Howe. The
I
opportunity to learn about some guys.
I just can't do this. Like, seriously, like, we have the same stinking brain. I have the same comment. Like, I wrote it down in
Really?
one of my notes. I'm like, remember,
Okay.
low, not a lot of cards, and I'm like, it gives us a chance to look at other players. Oh, I love it. At least we're on
Sorry,
the same
I'm
page.
stealing your thunder, man.
Oh no, you're
I'm taking all your gold here. Sorry about that.
not.
So the first card I picked out is a 1951 Parker's Jack Evans, number 90, PSA 8. It's a pop 53, 3 graded higher. One of the staples, it does seem like, though, on the PWCC Weekly are these nice vintage cards we often see, especially in 1951 Parkhurst.
Yep.
You kind of expect it now each week to have some nice options. And one of the things that stood out to me, aside from just being a pretty high grade for 1951 Parkhurst, is the centering. I mean,
Yeah.
holy smokes, the centering. It might be a tiny bit off top to bottom, but it's hard to imagine that you're going to get a 1951
Yeah.
Parkhurst
The
with
only thing I saw was
better
this
centering.
red part. Is that supposed to be lower?
I don't know.
Because it looks like it's really close. But yeah, the centering, boy, left to right, whew, looks really nice.
The printing registration is pretty good, but listen, it's a PSA 8, and there's going to be trade-offs in any vintage card.
Yeah.
A lot of people, though, get really distracted, including me, by centering, and so that's why this one stood out to me. So Jack Evans, Troy, was born in the UK.
Ooh.
He's one of about 50 players from the UK to play in the NHL. Now, I've got another question for you, and I just panicked because I forgot who it was for a second, because I don't want to put these on our notes because you'll see it, and it kind of ruins the question. So of the 50 I went through, and I kind of picked out probably the most known name to he was a rookie in 1990, played 20 years, is from Belfast, Ireland. Any idea who that is?
I have no clue. Belfast, Ireland. Whew. I don't. I have no clue.
It's not like Schmitty McClure or something like that. It's Owen Nolan.
Oh, really? Wow,
Yeah.
interesting.
Probably there was a couple of, now I don't want to get in trouble because a lot of people know a heck of a lot about hockey that listen to the show. There's a couple guys from like the early 1900s that are Hall of Famers, but I was going off of like most players we would know.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's only been about 50 players from the UK that have played in the NHL. So kind of
You
interesting
know,
that Evans was one of those guys.
what is absolutely crazy is there is an Owen Nolan card in the PWCC Weekly. I looked at his hockey reference real quick because I wanted to see his accomplishments, if he would what it had listed. I didn't even look at where he was born. But if I'd have
Really?
done the card, I would have known.
You would have known it.
I would have known it, but no, I didn't. Because I remember I just brought it up now to see, and I was like, yep, there's a there's a Noah Nolan in this. I think it's a rookie card. It's like a pro set. So I wasn't that excited about it. So I kind of moved on when I was looking at that one.
Oh yeah, I saw that one too. Because
Yeah.
I remember that card growing up and pulling it out of packs.
His amateur team was the Cornwall Royals of the OHL. I love that name, Cornwall.
That's a very UK name.
Yeah.
Even
but it's not even the UK,
Canada.
right? It's Canada, but they got the UK, tie.
Sure.
All right. Sorry, I derailed this.
No, all good, man. Evans played 14 seasons in the NHL, tried for the Rangers and Blackhawks from 1949 to 1963. He did win the Stanley Cup with Chicago in 1961. So after this high five, thought this is funny. After his playing career, he coached the California Golden Seals, who basically became defunct, who moved to Cleveland, the Cleveland Barons, who basically became defunct, and what folded into the North Stars. And then the Hartford Whalers, who basically became defunct.
Yeah, because that's my Gilles Meloche tie. I think he might have played for all those teams. I love Gilles Meloche.
So, I don't know. Does that say anything about his coaching?
Every team he goes to is defunct.
Yeah. Evans is not a Hall of Fame or anything like that, but he did have a long career in the NHL. I think so. Like, and this card is one of the little bit of higher values for vintage. I think the reason is if you're a 1951 Parker set collector and maybe working on the PSA set registry as a PSA 8 and with 53 copies, it's going to create a lot of competition around that. So I think that's why in an auction like PWCC Weekly, that cards like that go for quite a bit of money. The card at this grade, and it does not come up for sale often. The last sale I found, Troy, was 2 years ago in September of 2021 for $372 US. Now, the all-time high is all of $2 more, 374 US in December 2008. You got a current bid, Troy?
$300 US. I wanted to check the price after you started talking about that, so I apologize to YouTube people. I went a little crazy, but yeah, $300 US.
And I bet you, like, this is another example, kind of what I've learned about vintage, and give Jeremy a lot of credit again too. Just doing the show with him is you say, well, gosh, how was the all-time high in 2008? It probably was somebody doing the registry then, where the pop count was lower, and that gets very, very competitive. All right, you got the next vintage one?
I do. So here we go. I won't steal all the thunder me and Josh had together, I guess. Same brain.
I almost picked that card.
I know. I love this card. It looks awesome. So here's the deal. Like Josh said, there's overall, I show 111 cards, hockey cards in the auction. So it's a little on the low side. But again, it gave us the
opportunity.
Yeah, there you go. Opportunity to kind of expand our horizons and look at some players we might never mention on our show ever. And so I went with the 1964 Topps Hockey Claude Provost, number 23, PSA 7. First of all, I just love the picture.
He looks actually older than Gordie Howe, which
he does look older
than Gordie impossible Howe. For a high. What was it about the 60s where you had to look like you were
rough times, man?
Ancient.
Rough times. Yeah, rough times.
Game must have been a lot of cigarettes and booze or what?
I guess. So, and I actually, when I started looking at this card, I actually did go back and look at the 64 top set because I didn't know anything about it. So just little notable nuggets on it. It was the 64-65 Topps Hockey. It was the first time all the teams in the NHL were included in a Topps issue. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Also, Topps was US and then OPG was Canada prior to that, right?
Yep. Also, the first time the company printed more than 100 cards in a complete set. And it is the first time they used the tall boy format. So this card is 2.5 inches by 4.5 inches, or that tall boy where it's obviously tall. It's not the standard 3.5 height or is that what it is now? I can't remember what it is now. Anyways,
I used to like tall boys more than I do now. I just find them problematic to store.
Yes. Yeah.
And then that's like it's like they always end up like on a random shelf by themselves because they don't fit anywhere. But that's just
exactly. So again, all 6 teams are included in the set. Players are scattered throughout the set rather than a series like in previous years' sets. Most teams are also represented by their head coaches. So we got some head coaches cards. 2 cards midway through the set feature checklist, and the final 6 cards name all-star players. Set was printed in 2 series with cards 55 and higher making up the scarcer series. As a result of the uneven distribution, the cards between the series, 11 Series 2 cards were short printed. So I always find that interesting.
Oh.
Boy, a vintage card short printed. Have fun finding that thing. Notable rookie cards in the set include, and these names are almost impossible for me. So Marcel Paille, Paille, Gary Dornhofer, Pitt Martin, who I think we've mentioned on the show.
Yeah, we have.
Roger Crozier, Jim Poppin, Rod Sealing, and Lou Angotti. Other cards.
Not exactly the who's who of.
No, I don't. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure you look them up, right? Half of those guys are in the Hall of Fame. Other key cards in the set include all-star cards of Tim Horton and Stan Mikita, which are among the short prints. So that's a little bit overview of the 64 tops, the tall boys. Card itself, man, it looks fantastic shape. Again, it's a PSA 7. Very minor off-centering, left to right. If you can see, there's a little more white on the left side than the right side. I think the color looks fantastic. There's a little roughness when you zoom in. If you start going around the edges and, oops, sorry, I'm scrolling around. You can see it on the right-hand side here. There's some roughness. The bottom, there's some roughness. But again, it's a card from 64. It just looks really, really nice. I really love the color of this thing. And
his smile's great. I mean,
yeah, the smile's great. The back of the card shows a little more, like there's some chip, like, I don't know, there's wear on the corners if you look at the back. I love the cartoon on the back. They have like a cartoon, a little stat line and everything. So I thought it would be interesting because guess what, Josh? I know nothing about Claude Provost. So let's do a quick little rundown. Right winger, played all 15 years in the NHL with Montreal, 9-time Cup winner.
That's
it. One-time Bill Masterton winner. One-time NHL first All-Star team selection. 11-time NHL All-Star game selection. For his career, he had 254 goals, 335 assists for 589 points in 1,005 games played.
What is the Bill Masterton Award again?
That is, I think it's like preservation, dedication to hockey, if I remember right. Because Bill Masterton is the only active player, I think, in NHL history died on the ice for the North Stars, went head first on the boards. And so when I was looking at those careers, besides the stats, I mean, they're a little low, but 9-time Cup winner, some trophies, some All-Star games. I was like, man, I'm kind of surprised this guy isn't in the Hall of Fame. And then I found the fun fact. Provost won the most Stanley Cups of anyone who is not a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame. Every other player and executive who has won at least 8 Stanley Cups has been named to the Hockey Hall of Fame. Provost also has the most NHL All-Star Game appearances, 11, of all eligible non-Hockey Hall of Fame players.
Wow.
So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Don't you think that do some like veterans committee or something like that, this is a good candidate to eventually have?
Maybe is he so old that there's no way he can get in anymore? I never know like what the rules are.
I don't know. Is he still living even? I don't know. I
do not know. He passed away. Okay. If I remember right, it was a heart attack playing tennis in his home in Florida. But that's going off memory, I hope.
Well, he looked like he was about 87 years old in the 1960s.
Yeah, but still a great picture. All right, PSA 7, which this card has a pop of 65. There's no PSA 10s. The last PSA 7 sold for $101 US on July 15th of this year via eBay and verified in Terapeak. Current bid of this card is $6 US.
This is a perfect example, though, like what we've been talking about, where you get, and it's why we like this segment so much.
Yeah.
You can learn about these guys. Like, here's I don't know, maybe it's just a dumb trivia question, but the guy with the most Stanley Cups and All-Star appearances to never be in the Hall of Fame, now we know is Claude Provost.
I forgot to put this in my notes, but I love this. So how would you like this as your quote, or not your quote, your like little fun fact on the back? Claude skates with short, choppy style. Thank you, Tops, for that wonderful description of my skating.
Okay, the last vintage card I'm actually really excited to talk about. And this is one that, again, through the process of doing the research on I had a realization on this card that I'm really excited to talk to you about. So the card is the 1991 Upper Deck French Dominic Hasek. It's his rookie card.
Yep.
Now, my question to you, Troy, is Could this be one of the more or most unfortunate rookie cards ever for a player that's like
Mm,
Hall of Famer, GOAT, arguably Mount Rushmore for his position? So I'm going to state my case, and then
yeah,
you.
state it. State it.
Okay. Not only is his rookie card in the prime junk wax era, like 1991, 92, 93
Yeah.
Upper Deck, right, would be considered that. He didn't even get a Young Guns. He didn't even get a World Juniors card. Dominic Hasek's rookie is a 1991 base card.
In the wrong uniform.
Yeah, well, that's too.
I know you can't stop that. That's not like new
No,
or
but
anything.
so he played 735 NHL games and 20 with the Blackhawks.
Oh wow.
So that's a very teeny tiny small percentage of his total games played. But is that a good case though? I mean, can you think of somebody that has a more just bad, unfortunate situation for their rookie card?
Well, and you probably have to go to the French to find any value of it. I'm sure. I don't know what the regular PSA 10 is, but I'm guessing the French is worth more.
Yeah, it is. And I'll get into that right now. So that gives this one actually a little bit of a twist. So the French variant, like we're looking at if you're watching on YouTube, has a PSA 10 pop of 279 with a 43% gem rate. So his regular 1991 Upper Deck PSA 10 is a pop of 1,221. So obviously the French is much rarer.
Yeah.
The Dominator, though, played 16 seasons in the NHL. He played for Chicago, 20 games. Then Buffalo, Ottawa, which you forget about.
Yep.
Brief cup of coffee there, too.
Mm.
And then Detroit during his career. He won 2 Stanley Cups with the Red Wings. From 1993 to 2001, so was that basically an 8-year span? He won 6 Vezina trophies. Hasek also won consecutive Hart trophies in 97 and 98. He's the only goalie to even win multiple Hart trophies. He has the highest career save percentage all time, Troy, at .9223. How impressive is that? Is that a much about nothing stat, or does that really something that he should hang his hat on?
It's one of those stats. It's what they had at the time, right? It's still impressive. Don't get me wrong. It's still impressive. But now we have all this advanced analytics we can use. But goalies are lagging way behind skaters on advanced analytics. And hey, .9223, I don't care. That's good. And what does it say? It's going to be really hard for a goalie with today's game to ever win a Hart Trophy again. Because even if you are super good, you're not going to play 60 games anymore, 70 games.
True.
Look at every story in training camps. A ton of it is about load management, goalies and load management. Save them, make sure they're healthy and can get to the playoffs. So it's very, the save percentage is great, but that 6 Vezinas in 8 years. Whew.
Where do you rank Hasek all time on your goalies list or Mount Rushmore?
Definitely top 5. He's probably top 3. He was I just loved him for the improvisation he could do. He wasn't the most technically sound goalie. The reason he had to improvise so much is sometimes
he was a flopper.
He was out of position and a flopper. He wasn't the tallest guy in the world. He's still tall. I think he was maybe 6'1" or something, but he wasn't 6'5". He wasn't a giant or anything. But yeah,
was he better than Pekka Rinne, Troy?
Probably. Unfortunately, I have to admit to it.
Oh, Pekka.
Wow. Well, he's got a lot more. He's got 2 more cups.
Listening.
He's got 2 more cups than Pekka.
Where do you rank Hasek in all-time Twitter trolls, Troy?
He's not even a troll. I think he's like serious. Like he is angry. Him and Ovi, you do not put them in the same room. There's going to be words.
I don't know if I'd want to fight Ovi because I think he would just like chug a Diet Coke, eat some spaghetti, and kick your butt.
True. Well, Hasek wants all Russians banned from the NHL. He wants them all kicked out.
Well, last sale of a 1991 Upper Deck French Dominic Hasek PSA 10 was $132 in the PWCC Weekly Auction. I didn't record when, so it happened sometime. All-time high $400 US from the PWCC vault back in pandemic era, March 2021. Mm-hmm. You got a current bid?
$32 US.
Cheap as of right now. All right, we're going to switch to modern. I love the cards this week because this one had me all sorts of flummoxed. It's I still don't even have my
these
bearings.
tribute cards. I'm like, I just move on because I'm like,
well, when you see like what these go for, then it's going to get. So what we're talking about is a 2019 Upper Deck Clear Cut Sidney Crosby rookie tribute, PSA 9 auto 10. And it is an interesting card. It's from the 2019 clear cut set, so it's an acetate card, like most of the clear cuts are. I don't never get like the champs cards seem to be paper and clear cut, but just forget it. We'll move on. But it's a so the card design, the tribute is to the 2005 the Cup RPA. It's even like got the Cup logo on the bottom of the card, which inherently makes it confusing because it's not a Cup card. It's from clear cut. But then where it really kind of gets me is like, so if you had like a Crosby 2005 the Cup rookie patch auto, where the patch would be is like a little tiny shield with the Penguins logo in it. It's not a patch. It's a it's like a placeholder. It's like, oh yeah, there was a patch here, but now there's just this logo. So I don't, and in general too, I'm gonna say like I'm a big fan of like off the beaten path sort of card. I kind of like weird cards, right? Like I'm obsessed with glow peaches and other weird stuff like that. And I love like the Fleer retro inserts from 2012, like the Noise Boys and the all those other kind of ones that are escaping me now. But I don't know. I can't decide if this is like weird in a good way or I just don't get it. And I don't know. You tell me. Is this,
I think
what is this?
I think it's weird in a good way, and thank God they didn't just call it rookie tribute patch auto with no patch, because I could see something like that happening. But no, I think it's okay. I don't like the Cup emblem on it because that I know why they did it because it's the tribute.
They're trying to say like as authentic as
But
then why wouldn't they put a patch in it?
I know. I can live with this, even though I get it if you can't. That's my thing.
The other difference is, of course, like the Cup RPAs are numbered out of 99. This card's not numbered, so you don't really get like a clear indication of the print run. But when you look it up on PSA, there's only 7 graded, and so I don't think there's that many of them. And again, I would really encourage people to go to PWCCmarketplace.com and check out this card and kind of gauge it for yourself because it does take a little work to wrap your head around it in either a good way, I guess, or a bad way. And maybe if you are a Crosby collector, you're going to think it's cool. It's kind of a different card to add to your PC. But like I said a minute ago, Troy, these cards go for big dough. Last sale on a raw copy this past April was $5,225.
Yikes.
That's the other thing. It's like $5,000.
Yep.
It was also the all-time high. So are you surprised that they sell for that much?
Yes. I'm totally surprised, but I've come to expect it, I guess.
What's the current bid?
Which goes against being surprised, but anyways, $525 US. Steal.
All right, you got the next modern card.
I do. This is just a quick one. Here's what I want. So again, like I said, kind of going through the list. I did a 2019 Upper Deck the Cup Brilliance Pat LaFontaine auto. Again, we've probably not talked about Pat LaFontaine a lot.
I don't think we ever have.
Or maybe just in passing of a player or something maybe he was a runner-up for a number. But it's just another really cool card of a player we don't talk about a lot. And the card itself looks really nice. I have, I think, a Mike Bossy Brilliance card, if I remember right. But I know I have one Brilliance card. I can't remember who it is. But these Brilliance cards, the pictures, I don't think do it justice. They look fantastic in person. At least the one I had. I like the red flare that the card has. Auto is really nice, but you can see on the one I have, it looks really nice. It looks like the pen was too thick. It seems really, really thick, like the lettering and stuff. But I like the gold, but the pen itself maybe was too thick.
I think that on these Brilliance cards, the color of the marker makes a big difference. Like I'm holding up to the camera if you're watching a Kucherov.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Troy's favorite defenseman.
Yep.
And it's got blue, so it stands out a lot better than.
Yeah, gold on gold, maybe not the best idea, but it just I don't like the thickness. But again, it's a Pat LaFontaine card. I think it looks really nice from like the red. I like the flare that it has. The back of the card, obviously not too exciting. It shows a little bit of wear at the top, around the corners and the edges, like all these kind of thicker Cup cards do. I like the emblem, kind of the gold emblem in the middle. I just wish the auto maybe didn't cover it up. But again, it's a card. It's a Pat LaFontaine card. He's a Hall of Famer. He's named to the NHL's top 100 players of all time list. He only played 865 career regular season games. Had 468 goals, 545 assists for 1,013 points, 1.17 point per game player. Probably why I made the Hall of Fame, because I saw
if you look at the
860.
list of guys with 1,000
Yeah.
points that played less than 1,000 games, I would
Yep.
guess it's not a super long list.
No, not a super long list. He kind of reminds me. So I can't remember how many years, but being a Twins fan, we had Kirby Puckett. Puckett did not play that long. I think it was it 10, 11, 12 years, somewhere in there, but wasn't like that long because he got glaucoma in his eye, but he made the Hall of Fame too. And it's just, he was a great player during his time, but didn't play that long.
Yeah.
So this card, the BGS 8.5, this is the only graded copy of this card at BGS. There's only one. It's a 8.5. Raw copies have sold for around 14 to 20 US dollars this year. Current bid on this card is 30 US dollars.
Oh, the Pat LaFontaine market is
Well, that's the thing.
blowing
It's
up.
like, if it's the only one graded and you just got someone that wants to grade it, did I look at PSA? I think I did. I don't think there were any graded at PSA. This might
He's
be
another
like,
one of these guys though that you don't see like in all these sets that come out. You don't see like limited logos or like patch autos or anything
true.
like that, and so it's kind of hard to or easy to forget about them.
Well, you know what I noticed when we were doing I don't have it up anymore. The wax box, Pat LaFontaine, that 85 tops wax
Yeah.
box, Pat LaFontaine's on the top.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, last card we're going to talk about. Modern one is a 2016 SP Authentic Wayne Gretzky Sign of the Times Auto, BGS 9.510.
Love this.
Yeah, I picked this out for a couple of reasons, and I feel like I'm going to fumble this, so hopefully I'll be clear. But because when I start to like really, this is a topic that I'm kind of deep in thought about, which is scary because deep thought for me is not real deep. Let everyone know that. But so first of all, the card is beautiful. It's Wayne in an Oilers jersey. It's super clean. I love in auto cards where the designer of the card gives the auto area
Yes.
a lot of room to breathe, so you can
Yep.
focus on the auto. Which in the case of like Gretzky is significant because his auto is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And as I was staring at this card the other day, Troy, it hit me that for how many times this guy has signed his name, the fact that he takes this much care
Yeah.
to do it nicely is really amazing.
Yeah. I love it. Like I just, the bane of my existence is the initial auto, just like Stutzla, right? TS now is what it's been down to. I get it. I know why they do it. I don't like it. Like some players, I've seen basketball players where it's literally an X.
Mhm.
They just they don't care anymore. Plus, you got blue skate blades. Look at this. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, it's not the blade; it's the
cowl. Oh, no, what do they call it? Like, goalie. It's called the cowl that goes over the thing.
yeah,
The
the
tux.
plastic part,
The tux.
the tux. There we go. So here's like where this card had me thinking quite a bit because at some point I want to have a Gretzky auto. I don't have one, and kind of the challenge I think in trying to figure out which one to get is there's. Can we say there's probably too many Gretzky autos? Is that a fair statement at this point? Like maybe
Yeah, I wouldn't say you're wrong.
I would actually think like love for Upper Deck to maybe slow their roll a little bit on pumping out Gretzky autos, and it's so it's kind of like you could put this in the same sort of context of like a modern rookie and how they have like 900 rookies. It's like, well, how do you know which ones are like significant or are meaningful? And it's easy to tell the top of the top, and it's easy to tell the bottom of the bottom, but it's kind of the middle ones is what they say, like the world's not black and white. It's trying to figure out what's like gray in between. Like that's how
Yeah.
you figure out kind of what's what in this world. And so I was trying to wrap my head around this card, and I kind of came up with a list of okay, here's what's going for it and kind of going against it. What has going for it is it's Wayne again in an Oilers uniform. It's a great picture. It's a great clean card design. Nothing's crammed. The auto has room to to breathe. The design is balanced. It's just a really nice looking card. The auto, of course, is perfect. Not only did he sign it nice, but there's good consistency and pen pressure,
Hmm.
or whatever you want to say. And of course, he has such a nice auto. And then it's also a BGS 9.510. And the card grade itself is actually a True Gem Plus, meaning it has 3 9.5 subgrades and 110. So the card itself is a very nice condition card. Now the question is this a significant or important card? And probably the answer is no.
Yeah.
And it's a 2016 sign of the times. So Gretzky's earliest sign of the times go back to like 1997 or 98. So it's like his 20th rendition of a, kind of like what I was talking about in the last few shows, like where I'm trying to focus is like on first or rookie cards and trying to find cards that I think have meaning or significance, somewhat of a loose definition there. But then again, I mean, it is sign of the times, so it does have a good heritage, I guess, to the brand. It's not like pulling a synergy uh, auto or trilogy or something like that. That is a brand that's newer, Allure. I don't think there's our
Yeah.
Gretzky autos in Allure, but
No.
a brand that just doesn't have that heritage yet. So I don't know, and I guess like where I kind of is that this is sort of a middle of the road Gretzky. It doesn't go for a ton. It's the biggest thing it probably is going for it is the grade of the card, to be honest with you. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if you were hunting a Gretzky auto, I guess where would you look or what type of card would you be? Is this an option you would consider trying?
It's an option I would consider because I love the picture and I love the auto. I don't
Yeah.
know, this might be controversial. I'd rather have it out of the holder. I don't want it graded. I would rather have this raw.
And I think they're way cheaper. They're like $300-$500.
Yeah, I would.
Graded where
I'd almost
this
want to
one's
crack it. Just I don't think it looks good in that holder.
Well, this one would cost you though, because the last
Yeah.
sale of the 2016-17 SP Authentic Wayne Gretzky sign of the times auto BGS 9.510 was 12,700. No, not 12,000. $1,275 in the PWCC Weekly
Yeah.
in November of 2021, which is also the all-time high. The current bid is what 300
330.
330, which I think you can get like raw in like the 360 400 range. So yeah, that might be a good.
I don't think that's bad for a raw. I mean, I do like
No.
the card. It's just I understand that it's not his first sign of the times. I think it's just a really nice picture and auto and a clean looking card of Wayne Gretzky.
So those are the cards that we picked out. Remember, they're just a few of the cool hockey cards in the current PWCC Weekly. Be sure to head to pwccmarketplace.com to find your favorites and place your bids before the auction ends this Sunday night. All right, we're going to end with personal pickups, and we're like hanging on by a very thin razor. Keeping this
I got
going.
done.
I bought one at a very small pickup. It's a 2021 Metal Universe Scott Prunovich Red Retro PMG. It was like $25. As I mentioned before, Scotty's from my little hometown in Minnesota. So I kind of started a little bit of a PC. He's been very, very injured his whole career.
Yeah.
He's healthy now. He played really, really well the other night. And so he's kind of vying for that sixth defensive spot for the Blues. But one Hobie Baker is very offensive. If he can just stay healthy, then he has a good chance to produce. And I have like nieces and nephews back in my hometown. So I've kind of eventually I'll probably give these cards to my nephew, but retro red PMG rookie for $25.
Yeah.
Kind of fun.
I'm not convinced that this isn't Steven Stamkos. It looks like him from afar.
He does look like Hammer a little bit, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And who knows that you see that situation?
No, what happened?
So very un-Stamkos like.
Oh.
He came out the first day of camp because
start fighting people?
No, he said directly to the media that he's incredibly disappointed that the Tampa Bay Lightning management has not even reached out to him regarding his contract situation. So he's only like 32, 33.
Yeah.
And this is the last year of the deal. And apparently, like you go down the list for like Vasilevsky, Kucherov, all their key players, they took care of them a year before their deal expired. And he said over the summer, not only did they not make him an offer, they never reached out.
Hey, we'll take him. Come to the Wild. We need veteran leadership. We need veteran leadership besides Pat Maroon. come to the wild.
Center for Kaprizov. That wouldn't be.
Ooh, there you go.
That wouldn't
Spicy. Hobby spice.
There we go. Well, that's our show for this Thursday. If you like the episode, please leave a rating review on Apple, Spotify, whatever podcast app you listen to us on. If you love the show, you want to support us, want to chat with us every day in the Hockey Cards Gongshow Discord server, please consider a $5 a month donation. Join our auto $1.99 support level tier on Patreon. You can go to our website, hockeycardsgongshow.com, and find the Become a Patron link there, or go directly to the Patreon website, patreon.com, and search for Hockey Cards Gongshow. If you want to look in the show description for whatever podcast app you're listening to us on, or in YouTube, there's a link to our Patreon there. And then finally, in our Instagram and TikTok profiles, there's a link via Linktree to Patreon as well. Troy, you may have just found out, but we're actually on social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. And the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast is a production of Dollar Box Ventures, LLC. Have an awesome start to your week. Enjoy preseason mania. Connor Bedard plays tonight for the first time. We'll see what happens there. Talk to you on Monday.